Meetings. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so this meeting will be conducted virtually. The public will be given an opportunity to participate remotely through Zoom by entering the link that was listed on the township website and in the agenda. Or they can call in to the telephone numbers that were listed on the agenda and enter the password. All documents pertaining to any applications on the agenda were available on the website, on the township website, at least 10 days prior to this meeting. Board members, staff, and consultants will be participating remotely. Applicants will be presenting remotely and will identify themselves before testifying. This meeting has been duly advertised according to Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, the Sunshine Law. Notice of the 2020 annual meeting schedule has been provided to officially designated newspapers, the township clerk, and posted on the bulletin board at the township municipal complex. Additional notice has been provided to communicate that this meeting is being conducted by electronic means only. Tina, would you take a roll call, please?
Mr. Valchek?
Here.
Ms. Erickson?
Here.
Mr. Sirachi? Absent. Mr. Stemler?
Here.
Ms. Haynes? Helen, you're on mute. Chair.
Hey, Chicky, bottom.
There you go. Okay, I'm here. Did you get it?
Miss Lilly?
Here,
Mr. Woolmacher?
Here.
Mr. Basil? Absent. Chairman Herbert?
President.
Thank you.
Also, would you note or call it?
Oh, yeah, I meant to do that. Mr. Gorman, you're here?
Present.
Mr. Anderson?
I'm here.
Mr. Euro?
Here.
And Fred Kinsler?
Present.
Thank you for reminding me.
Okay, so at this point, I'm going to ask Fred Kinsler to briefly explain the technology being used tonight for this virtual meeting, especially since it's different from the last three meetings that we had, and how the public will be able to participate during the meeting. Fred?
Thanks, Chairman. So we're using Zoom, only Zoom. You're able to call in or dial in using the webinar ID and password. We will ask everybody to mute their lines. If you come in as an attendee, you will be muted. When it's time for public speaking, you can raise your hand. We'll get to you in order. I'll ask you to unmute yourself. You can speak, and then we'll mute yourself again and continue that form. Again, if you have any problems or questions, you can always raise your hand again, and we'll try to answer them as we go. Again, for all the panelists, please know that if you're not muted, we hear everything. Any little sound will interrupt. That's how Zoom works. So if you can mute yourself, if you're pretty sure you're not talking, that would be great. If you hover over yourself, you'll be able to unmute yourself at any time if you have to interrupt. But as Chairman said, if we can let the panelists finish, when it is time for the presentation, they will take over and there'll be a screen share. Mr. Ford will share his screen and probably go through the presentation that way. We've tested it, seemed to work okay. So that's the technology we'll use. If you have any problems, we'll pause and we'll make it work. So that's all good, Chairman. Go ahead.
Thank you, Fred. The first thing on the agenda tonight is consideration of meeting minutes. The first meeting minutes are for June 3rd, 2020. Any board discussion on those? Nobody? Okay, do I hear a motion? Go ahead.
Motion to approve, John Stemler.
Is there a second?
Chicky, second.
Okay, Chicky. Roll call vote, please, Tim.
Roll call?
Chicky, roll call, that's right.
Okay, Mr. Valchek?
Yes.
Ms. Erickson?
she's muted.
Yes.
Mr. Stamler,
Yes.
Ms. Haynes,
Yes.
Ms. Lilly,
yes,
Mr. Walmacher,
Yes.
Chairman Herbert.
Yes. The second meeting minutes are for June 17th, 2020. Any discussion on this, on these minutes?
John Stamler, motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Tina, would you take the roll call, please, on that, please?
Mr. Valchek,
Yes.
Ms. Erickson,
yes,
Mr. Stamler,
Yes.
Ms. Haynes,
Yes.
Ms. Lilly,
yes,
Mr. Walmacher,
Yes.
Chairman Herbert.
Yes. Next, the consideration of resolutions. We have 3 resolutions to approve tonight. The first one is BA 19-11, Parkside at Mountain View HOA sign. Any board discussion on this one?
If none, John Stamler, motions to approve.
Is there a second?
Janine Erickson will second.
Okay. Tina, roll call, please.
Yes, Chairman Herbert,
Yes.
Ms. Haynes,
Yes.
Mr. Valchek,
Yes.
Mr. Stamler,
Yes.
Ms. Lilly,
yes,
Ms. Erickson,
Yes,
Mr. Walmacher.
Yes.
Next resolution is BA 19-14, IPPOS NJ Property Management Canine Resort. This is a big one. Any discussion on this one?
If none,
Excuse me.
John Stamler, motions to approve.
Excuse me, Chairman.
Yes.
I'm just going to let you know Adonis has just come in. I'm promoting him, so
Okay,
I believe he has joined us. So sorry to interrupt.
thank you. Okay, so we just got a motion to approve. Did I hear a second?
I'll second it, Phil Solili,
Tina, roll call, please.
Yes, Chairman Herbert,
Yes.
Ms. Haynes,
Yes.
Mr. Valchek,
Yes.
Mr. Stamler,
Yes.
Ms. Lilly,
yes,
Ms. Erickson,
yes,
Mr. Walmacher.
Yes.
Third resolution.
Tina, you did get that Adonis has joined, right?
Yes, I just made a note of it that he's present.
Adonis, could you unmute yourself and make sure we can hear you, Adonis, please?
Hello?
Okay, there you are.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I have Mr. Donis arriving at 7:10 PM.
Thank you.
The last resolutions for approval, PA 19-23. Adonis, could you mute yourself again, please? Thank you. That's PSE&G 430 Three Bridges Road. Any board discussion on that one? Hearing none.
If none, John Stamler, motions to approve.
Second.
I'll second it, Phil Solili,
Tina, roll call.
Chairman Herbert,
Yes.
Ms. Haynes,
Yes.
Mr. Valchek,
Yes.
Mr. Stamler,
Yes.
Ms. Erickson,
yes,
and Mr. Walmacher.
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, Frank. Hey, Herbert. Hey, Frank
Mr.
Herbert.
Anderson, Philomena seconded that, but she wasn't here.
Okay.
Adonis, you gotta mute your phone, and Frank Herbert, it's John. There's a lot of people that are not on mute.
I'm
so
unmuting, but it's going back to mute. I think it's connection. Hello?
Everybody okay? Mr. Anderson, I have down that Ms. Lilly, she had left early at the last meeting, but she seconded the motion. Is that okay?
Yes, she can second the motion, although her vote in favor of the resolution actually doesn't count. We will make sure, Mr. Gorman and I will make sure that's correct when the voting block is filled out.
I am hearing some feedback, and I see that Chicky is not muted and Adonis is not muted, so I don't know if it's coming from them. Anyway, okay, next item. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes. Yes, Adonis.
No, nothing. I'm just checking if I'm unmuted because somebody is muting me.
Yeah, you should be unmuted. Right now, you're not.
I'm good now.
Yeah, but you should be unmuted because what's happening, if if any noise coming from your room is going to be coming through if you're not speaking.
Okay.
Good. Okay, next matter of business is Board of Adjustment business. Does anybody in the board want to bring up any business tonight?
It's John Stamler. Once again, I have to bring up those agenda items from last year. I sent out another email, Frank. I know there's, 6 different items that we're suggesting for the planning board to look at, but there's no excuse where they can't even get, why can't they get at least one approved? And one is that number 4 that I sent the email on. So I sent the email out, they're all on it, but maybe you could follow up. Number 4 is the easiest one. Let them, we can't wait for the whole show. They could do it by piece.
As a matter of fact, I did follow up this morning, and they had their first meeting after lockdown in July. They're aware of our letter with our 6 proposals, and they're aware that we believe at least 2 of them can be worked on real quick, and they're going to discuss it at the next meeting in August, I'm told.
Well, the last meeting lasted like 15 minutes. Why they had all that time? Why couldn't they just hang around and discuss it then? So do me a favor, follow up with them again. Just tell them it's a smokescreen. We're getting tired of it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next is business from the floor. This is for matters not on the agenda. So Fred, would you mute the line and see if anybody, I see we have 4 attendees out there that might want to talk.
Correct. If there's anyone from the public who is attending that has any matters not on the agenda, could you please raise your hand? Okay, Frank, seeing none, I would continue on.
Okay, then we're on to our one and only public hearing tonight, the one and only application, Bilko Construction. Patrick, would you introduce that, please?
The only application tonight on the agenda is Bilko Construction Incorporated, file number BA 19-21, located at block 180.01, lot 1, otherwise known as 8626 Route 206. The applicant is seeking preliminary and final major site plan approval with a D variance and C bulk variances to demolish an existing gas station and convenience store and to construct a new 2,963 square foot convenience store and gasoline station on the property in the C1 neighborhood shopping zoning district. Applicant had previously requested a adjournment from the July 1st agenda. The board agreed to that adjournment, and we're here today to hear this for the first time. For today's meeting, the applicant has successfully noticed in the paper, and we've received such acknowledgement of the notice. Thank you.
Before we begin, Mark, do you have any comments at this point?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay, then let's begin with the attorney for the application.
Okay, Mike, if you want to unmute your Hillsborough conference room one. There you go. Oh, okay, Mike.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Mike Ogrodnik. I'm an attorney at Savoshuk, Gillespie, Ogrodnik and Fisher. I'm here on behalf of Bilko Construction Company Incorporated, the applicant. We're here for, again, the major preliminary and final major site plan approval. We're seeking approvals to really modernize and update the service station and the convenience store. I have with me today in the Van Cleef office here in Hillsborough, Mike Ford, our professional engineer, and Manny Bilko, who's the owner and the applicant. Mr. Bilko purchased this property back in the mid-90s. It was a property that had sat vacant for a period of time. At that time, he sought site plan approval to convert the old existing building into a convenience store. I believe you removed the bays at that time. If the board may remember, this is the old Sub and Jug, which is, by our understanding, one of the first gasoline stations in Hillsborough. Kind of has an interesting procedural history in that it was deemed a pre-existing non-conforming use by the zoning official, which was challenged and later upheld by this Board of Adjustment for that pre-existing nonconformity. The application was then challenged by the owner of the mobile station, the competitor on that corner lot. Sitting in Superior Court, Judge Ashrafi upheld the board's determination that the use was a pre-existing non-conforming use and granted the site plan application at that time in the late 90s, which was then constructed and converted that old station into the convenience store. This is a 1.04 acre property, again in the C1 neighborhood shopping district zone. We're now at a point where it's been operational and successful for 20-something years, and we're looking to improve, actually demolish and reconstruct the convenience store and the canopy and the gas islands with a modern, more architecturally pleasing structure. The gasoline service stations, again, are permitted. They're a permitted conditional use in the C1 zone. However, one of the conditions is that the gasoline station must be located at least 100 feet away from any residence or residential zone. This existing site and existing gasoline station is located directly adjacent to the residential zone and the residential uses. I should note, though, however, that this gas station, as indicated earlier, predated the residential on that corner. So we're seeking the variance for what we're doing is, expanding and reconstructing this station for a roughly 3,000 square foot convenience store and 3 pump islands, which would consist of 4 fueling positions at each island and a diesel pump. Right now, as I'm sure you're aware, this is the intersection with the bypass. The applicant had been in discussions and coordination with NJDOT. NJDOT purchased various pieces of land for the intersection. And again, this application proposes a more westerly site access driveway on Mountain View Road, in addition to the existing driveway. By way of relief, we are seeking the D use variance for the existing and proposed use, again, due to the fact that although pre-existing, it's located adjacent to the residential zone and therefore does not meet that conditional use condition of 100 feet from a residential zone. That's under section 188-100 D. And there's a few C bulk variances necessitated by this application. One is the lot area. This is a 2-acre zone. Again, we have an existing 1.04 acres provided. The lot width is 200 feet, where 183.37 feet are provided. Impervious coverage, 45% is permitted, 57.2% is proposed. Lot depth from Mountain View Road, 250 feet is required, and 183.47 feet is proposed. Front yard variance for the store from Mountain View Road, where 90 feet is required and 58 feet is proposed. Front yard variance for the canopy from Mountain View Road, where 90 feet is required and 45 feet is proposed. And a front yard variance for the canopy from Route 206, where 90 feet is required and 32.7 feet is proposed. Again, most of these are existing conditions. We had also requested various waivers for this application as identified in David Maskey's report of March 2nd, as well as the Bob Euro's T&M engineering report dated March 10th, 2020. Those include parking spaces of 19 by 18 with 24-foot access. As of course, it's 10 by 20 and 30 foot is in the ordinance. So we're again asking for this waiver from section 188-68. The retail store loading space where one is required and none is proposed under 188-68. We're seeking 2 fuel canopy signs, 30 square foot each, and 1 freestanding sign, 75 square feet in size and 17.5 feet high. The ordinance requires signs not exceeding a total of 30 square feet or 1 pole sign not exceeding 30 square feet in area and 15 feet in height, which would require a variance for the height and the size under 188-83J6B. In compliance with the municipal land use of the state of New Jersey, notice has been served. Affidavits of publication and certified mailings to abutting property owners has been submitted to this board in anticipation of tonight's hearing. With me tonight, I have Michael Ford, our civil engineer. I have Gary Dean, who's on the line. He's our traffic engineer. I have Mike Testa. He's our licensed architect. And I also have Art Bernard, our professional planner. I intend to only introduce the experts that are necessary to respond to any inquiry. I would like to first swear in, introduce, and qualify Mike Ford from Van Cleef Engineering.
Mr. Ford, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Just state your name for the record. I know who you are, though. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm Michael Ford, FORD with Van Cleef Engineering Associates. Appeared before this board on other occasions. Not quite in this format.
Since you appeared before this board, we can accept your qualifications, Mr. Ford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right. Okay. Well, I guess maybe what I'll first do is share the screen. I have the PDF, or actually it was a, what's it called, Michael? Your PowerPoint presentation, excuse me. Thank you. All right, just give me a minute. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
All right. I'll go back. This.
Better than in the courtroom, I might say.
All right, the first, let me go back to the first screen. Let me stop this scrolling. Okay, our first screen, now you can see it. The first screen that I'm sharing here is the existing conditions. Can everybody still see me or see
No.
this?
No, Mike, we see your total, your window screen now. There you go.
Okay, there it is.
All right. All right. This is, let me go back to the first.
And Mike, as you go through, this is John Stamler. I really would like to see where the signs are going to be posted. So as you go through, can you put emphasis on that?
Yes, sir. Okay. This first page of the exhibit is the existing conditions, on which we have also highlighted in a dark outline the intersection improvements that are actually under construction now at the intersection of Mountain View Road, which I'm highlighting with the cursor, going up and down through the middle of the page, and Route 206 along the bottom of the page. And what you see outlined in dark, and you'll see better in a colorized version, is this is really the southern terminus of the Route 206 bypass that's under construction. And this is the existing gas station on the southwest corner of that intersection, the Gulf Station. And another gas station is directly across Mountain View Road from this site. You see the canopies with the existing filling stations. At the front of the site, 2 access driveways from Route 206 and the existing convenience store, beige building, and a circular driveway around the entire existing site improvements with paved areas. For orientation, just to the south of this site is the Bellmead Animal Hospital. And that's at the left-hand portion of the screen. What we're proposing, as was introduced as part of the application, is, and I'm going to go to the next screen now. It's taking a minute.
We have a lot of files on your computer.
Yeah, a little bit, sorry. Okay, this is the proposed condition. Now you see highlighted the, oh, it's coming back.
Yeah, we're back to your shortcuts.
Yeah, too many. Now we're back, right?
There you
Okay,
go.
thank you. All right, you see the Route 206 improvements in their final orientation. As Mr. Ogrodnik described, the applicant worked with DOT as part of those improvements. In fact, some of the improvements are actually under construction at the applicant's existing driveways on Route 206, as well as right at the intersection where the new traffic signal was installed. And you can see there's a triangular shaped piece of property that was acquired by DOT from the applicant to facilitate those traffic signs. And as one of the members asked, there's an existing site fueling sign now at the intersection, and we're proposing a new sign somewhat further back from Route 206, at least on the current plan, and we'll discuss that in more detail in a minute. So that's the freestanding sign, which is right at the intersection in that landscaped island between the 2 driveways. And then the other signage that's proposed are attached to the proposed canopy. 1 sign facing Route 206 on the proposed canopy and 1 sign facing Mountain View Road on the proposed canopy. So this gray box is the new filling station's canopy, and then the new building is in dark brown, which has been located further back on the property, so a greater setback from Route 206 as well as Mountain View Road. And then the canopy, the new canopy, is further back than the existing canopy from Route 206. We've maintained the 2 existing driveways at Route 206. No change is proposed there. And then once we get on site, we're improving the circulation with an access driveway similar to the existing conditions, but in a improved circulation pattern, better turning radiuses for a one-way driveway around the rear of the building, similar to the existing conditions. And that would facilitate the filling of the tanks. This is one of the questions that came up in the reports, the underground tanks. So that would be access from Route 206 for filling trucks, stopping in a similar location to what they do today, proceeding with filling of the underground tanks, and then proceeding out in a one-way clockwise fashion around the back of the building and exiting onto Mountain View Road and being able to then make a right turn and go toward the intersection at Mountain View and Route 206, the signalized intersection.
Mike, can I interrupt a moment? Chicky, I noticed that on your site plan and on this, you have arrows at the more easterly exit closest to the highway. You have no arrows at that more westerly exit. Are you proposing that that is a one-way out with right and left turns, or what exactly is your traffic pattern going to be there?
For Route 206?
No, the one that on the westerly exit on Mountain View.
Okay, oh, I'm sorry, okay. Westerly exit on, access on Mountain View is exit unrestricted right or left, and an entrance, but a do not enter sign so that you can't immediately, once you get on site, you would have to proceed to the front of the site. And that would be our only entrance off of Route 206 if you're, I'm sorry, from Mountain View Road, if you're headed in westbound direction on Mountain View. So if you came in off the bypass and were headed down Mountain View Road and decided to enter our site, you wouldn't be permitted to make a left in at the first entrance. You'd have to make a left in at the second entrance.
All right,
So
how
that's
about
really,
I'm sorry, how about the
Okay.
exit on your more easterly entrance or
yes,
driveway?
that's an exit with a right turn only. So
Okay,
you'd
but
only
also,
be able to exit. And you'd have an entrance in on Mountain View. If you were headed eastbound on Mountain View, you could make a right into the site at that location. And
Okay,
that's
but-
following like the right turn lane that then goes to Route 206.
okay, it's not marked on either the site plan or even what you're showing now, the westerly, at least as far as anything I've got here, there's no arrows on that westerly entrance.
Oh, this one right here. That's because it's unrestricted. There's no restrictions on that.
Oh, okay.
You can,
All right.
that's why.
Yep.
Okay.
And then,
That is-
and there's
Thank
signage that dictates all of these restrictions on the movements. And there were comments in the engineer's report with some additional signage details and corrections to the signs, and we make all those changes to his satisfaction.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So that, I think, highlights traffic patterns, except for, I'll say, with regards to parking, we've provided adequate parking. Did I just change signs? Am I back? Wait. Sorry. This is the building.
No, it isn't.
Could we have some dentist music, please? Dentist office music, please. All right. Parking is along the front of the building on the sides facing Mountain View and Route 206. Head-on parking only. We've also provided for, in accordance with a suggestion from the Environmental Commission, and we made a stop there in February, for actually some, what do they call them? I guess electric charging stations. So in addition to the petroleum filling stations, part and parcel to the gas station, we're also providing for an electric charging station that would be adequate to service 2 cars in those parking areas that I'm highlighting in the rear right-hand corner of the building. It's a new convenience store. Sorry, Michael moved and it decided to change slides on me. There we go. We have existing public utilities, both public sewer and water for the existing facility. They'll be utilized for the new facility and upgraded to any extent they need to be. For the new building utility connections and locations, that's both public water and sewer. There is a ongoing management of the property by the applicant's LSRP. This is with ongoing DEP managed and monitored site groundwater contamination management. With or without that this application, those LSRP events and management will continue. Any questions at this point? I don't want to go too fast or too slow. And
Excuse me, Mike, Bob Euro.
yes, sir.
With the LSRP, the monitoring, do you have monitoring wells on site?
Yes, we do.
And will they be impacted by the proposed development?
No, they'll be maintained.
Okay, thank you.
We do have, with regards to outside agencies, an NJDEP freshwater wetland letter of interpretation identifying no wetlands on the property. We've also been to the Delaware and Raritan Canal Commission, received a letter of non-applicability and approval letters from both the Somerset County Planning Board and the Somerset Union Soil Conservation District. We've also received the will serve letters from the various utility companies, including the Hillsborough Township Municipal Utilities Authority. With regards to the design waivers, Mr. Ogrodnik outlined those. If there's any questions, I can address those. With regards to site lighting, we do have design waivers associated with the site lighting. There are comments regarding site lighting in Mr. Euro's report. I don't believe there's any objections to the waivers we're requesting, but there was a request for an addition of house side shields on the site lights, as well as restrictions on the site lights if there's any, and during the hours of non-operation, and we'd agree to address both of those comments by Mr. Euro to his satisfaction. The operation of the site is basically anticipated to stay the same. That is the hours of operation. The fueling would be of the the filling of the on-site fueling tanks would be done in the same manner it is today that I described. So this is really a knockdown and redo of an existing about 24-year-old site that'll be upgraded and enhanced. We do have limited on-site landscaping today. We're proposing, as part of this site improvement package, a nice substantial landscaping package, including street trees, on-site replacement trees, enhanced buffer along the westerly boundary to our nearest neighbor. There were comments in Mr. Euro's report to the board regarding landscaping, and again, we would address all of those comments to his satisfaction. Regarding our variances, there is a variance requested with regards to impervious coverage on the site, and it's somewhat unique in this C1 zone, and that is there's a separation of the total impervious coverage on site into two categories. And there is no max impervious coverage for the total site, but there is a 20% threshold for the building and a 45% threshold for the remaining coverage, which, if you do the math, it's a total of 65. That's not specifically outlined in your ordinance, but I'll say to the board that we've complied with the building coverage maximum, that we're under the 20%, but we do have an exceedance on the 45% other category, which is the 45%. We're we're about 58% for that total max impervious coverage, or I'm sorry, other impervious coverage category. But again, if you look at it in totality on the site, that is the remaining green area. If you had a total 20% building and 45% other, you'd end up with 65 total, or about 35% remaining green area on the site. We do provide more than the 35% green area, and we are under that theoretical 65% impervious coverage.
Before, can I ask you a question? Does it matter what's the coverage is, if it's building, practically speaking, does it matter if it's just, building or not?
Well, Mr.
No.
Chairman, the answer to that is the ordinance says that it does make a difference.
But I'm
Correct.
asking from an engineering viewpoint.
Yeah, from an engineering viewpoint, from a practical standpoint, the answer is no. And that's why I characterized one of the important elements of impervious coverage limit is what's on the other side of that, what's left green. And in this case, it would be 35% green, and that's what we've provided. And part of this enhancement to the site will include an enhanced total site lot landscaping package. One of the elements that's part of the current operation, albeit in COVID, it might not make sense, but there was no limitation on the hours of operation. That was, the applicant was permitted to be open 24/7. And we'd like to maintain that current unrestricted hours of operation. I've discussed traffic. I've discussed grading, drainage, and utilities. To the extent the grading is changed on the site, albeit it's minimal. The overall drainage patterns of the site remain unchanged. There's a small portion of the site that drains toward Route 206, but the majority of the site drains in a westerly fashion and out to Mountain View Road. We don't have any adverse impacts on our neighbors with regards to drainage or stormwater runoff. And as part of Mr. Euro's report, he asked for additional calculations to further support that to his satisfaction. And again, we would agree as any condition of approval to address those comments or requests for additional information to Mr. Euro's satisfaction. We are proposing along the loop road, the one-way loop road, an outdoor trash enclosure. I believe that the ordinance requires a specific landscaping around that trash enclosure, and we would provide additional landscaping to address that requirement, that be shrubs or evergreen plantings surrounding the trash enclosure. But I'll point out already, we've actually already taken measures to provide additional landscaping along our westerly boundary, which is our nearest neighbor. Are you seeing that quit? All right. I believe I think I've addressed the major elements in Mr. Yo's report dated March 10th. The only objection we have, and this is the only objection, and that's not, I'll say not an objection, but a suggestion in the report that we've considered but don't want to implement, and that is a change to our Route 206 intersection driveways. We have, as I stated at the onset, and the town has been very sensitive to this, that is not providing any site plan approvals that would be contrary to what DOT is doing with regards to the Route 206 bypass. And prior to even submitting this application, the applicant worked with with NJDOT to finalize and help them with their plans for the bypass. And that included some changes to the intersections that exist today, albeit minor. There was a suggestion to eliminate the one driveway closest to the intersection, which is right now an unrestricted access driveway. DOT's improvements that they're actually building right now would make that an entrance only driveway. We don't want to change that. We want to maintain what DOT is agreed to with the applicant, and that would be the entrance only driveway, which is our northerly driveway, and then our southerly driveway would be an entrance and a right turn out. Obviously, the island that DOT is actually building as part of the bypass precludes any lefts out of the site. Right now, it's unrestricted, but as the applicant has already agreed to work with DOT, that both driveways would be, or I should say the southerly driveway would be restricted so that would be right out only. So, and I've discussed this with Mr. Euro earlier today. I don't think there's any objection to maintaining what DOT has already agreed to and actually is under construction doing, and it's under their jurisdiction. So with the, other than that one suggestion, and we've considered it and discussed it in Mr. Yo's letter, we would agree to address each and every other comment in his report to his satisfaction.
Mr. Chair, this is Bob Euro. Based on my discussions with Mr. Ford and the testimony provided, I have no objection to that driveway, that entrance-only driveway remaining, with the understanding that it is part of the DOT 206 project. So I am okay with that. Just to touch base on some additional items in my letter. Mr. Ford, the existing septic system, just confirm that it will be abandoned in accordance with the current state statutes?
Yes.
Okay. The existing the proposed utilities to the new facility, are you going to use existing utilities and just extend them, or are you going to be providing new connections and new services?
Yeah, right now, the plan is to utilize the existing sanitary sewer connection at Mountain View with no change to it, and the existing water from access from Route 206. But to the extent when the mechanical plans are drawn up for the building and there's any upgrades or repairs, you know, certainly with this major improvement to the site, if we do have to make any changes to that, we'll do it in concert with those utility companies.
Okay, thank you. As I'm just going through my letter real quick.
Can we start from the top, because some of those waivers the board might want to join in and discuss?
Well, I would
Yeah.
defer to Mr. Maskey's letter regarding the waivers, because I think he identified the same ones. So on the technical, I just want to make sure Mr. Ford gets some testimony on the record, particularly with the operations. And I know you said you're going to follow the existing operations that exist today. You did mention that there is an approval or an acceptance of 24 hours, 7 days a week. But can you just touch base on the potential number of employees, the frequency of deliveries, what kind of vehicles, how large the trucks, the frequency of those deliveries, and especially, are there going to be any kind of goods stored outside, whether there'll be any kind of racks for chips or soda, or even, I know a lot of these establishments are doing the self-serve propane tanks with propane cages. So just if you can touch on some of that.
Okay. The applicant is here, who's the operator of the facility and has been the owner and operator since the prior approval in 1996. So some of the, you know, the operational elements, I'll let him discuss that now. If he would just need to be sworn, I believe.
No, let's wait till he testifies instead of.
Okay.
Yeah, let's wait. It's John Stamler, because I want to discuss the waivers that are needed for the signage.
Okay.
Which item is that?
With that, that's all of the questions that I have at this time.
Okay, I'm just going through your report, and I'm trying to hit the waivers. For instance, on E, landscaping, you talk about the number of trees.
Hey, Frank, if you don't mind, this is John again. Can we start with the signs?
Okay, which item is that on Bob's report, just so we.
I don't have.
Okay,
Bob.
you know what? This is tricky. I'm going to jump in with about the sign issue. You know, you're proposing a 70 square foot double-sided lighted sign. Is that correct? In addition to the 2 canopy signs?
It's
Okay,
75.
and here, are they going to be lighted during all dark hours? You know, 5 p.m. to 7 AM. If the gas station is open, then I'm assuming that that will be lighted that whole time, correct?
When we're open, yes.
Okay, you're right next to a residential zone. A huge sign, much bigger than your current sign, plus your two 30-foot canopy signs. I certainly would like to see a reduction in that proposal. I think I read, I don't know whose report it was, that your current canopy or your current freestanding sign is about 43 square feet, I think. Why do you feel it's necessary to have almost twice that size for that freestanding?
Hey, Chicky, it's John Stamler. Thanks for jumping in. But their existing sign is 52 square feet. I was gonna discuss all that.
Oh, okay. Okay, go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
Thank you. We know, okay, we know there's a waiver out there, not only for the number of signs, but also for the size. And we know that doesn't comply, and that's the reason for the waiver. So when I look over everything, regardless of whether you have, especially for a corner lot, whether you have two canopy signs permitted without the freestanding, but if you have a freestanding, you're only allowed to have one canopy. The bottom line is this particular application and lot, the maximum number of signs, and correct me if I'm wrong, Patrick, right? Can only have 3 signs, correct?
Well, yeah, Patrick speaking. So you can have what I think, John, I think are you referring to is that if they can have one wall sign, and then
Yeah, regardless
well,
of,
actually, they
regard-
potential for two wall signs. But
well,
the-
right, but if you have 2 wall signs, you can't have a freestanding. But if you have 1 wall sign, you can have a freestanding. So regardless of how you run the numbers, the maximum number of signs is really 3, regardless of how you manipulate it, correct?
No, it's a little bit of a change because the ordinance spells out that you can do either the canopy signs or a freestanding sign, not both. So either you can have 2 canopy signs and a freestanding sign plus the wall signs, or you can have 1 freestanding sign and the wall signs. But either way, the amount of signs that are being proposed for the canopies and for the freestanding sign, that's where the waiver jumps in at.
No, but Patrick, I think you're not listening
I'm
to my
following
question.
you.
The maximum by code, the maximum number of signs for this lot and application is 3.
I believe, Mr. Sandler.
Or 4.
Mark Anderson, I believe you're correct under certain circumstances. There's actually, I think, a very good summary of the sign issue at the bottom half of Mr. Maskey's report.
Yeah, I'm looking at page 7. And
Yes, I think that summary is accurate.
right, but if you read it, Mark, the way I'm reading it, right? Corner lots could have a second wall sign, right? Facing the secondary street.
Yeah.
A freestanding sign is permitted only if there are no canopy signs.
Correct.
Correct.
So if they go with 2 canopy signs, by code, they can't have the freestanding. So we're at 2, right?
No, you're at potentially of 3 if you count the wall signs.
That's my point. So we're back to what I was saying, 3.
Oh, that's what I said. Yeah,
Or
I think
or
that's
John,
probably
if you just want to do the, I'm sorry, Mark, to interrupt. If you just wanted to do the canopy signs and the wall signs, then you would have 4.
They're only proposing 1 wall sign.
If there's a potential here to do 2 wall signs, if you wanted to.
Right, 2 wall signs without the freestanding one. So we're at 2.
No, they can still do the freestanding sign.
Only with a waiver.
They can do the 2 wall signs or 2 canopy signs, or if they decide not to do a freestanding sign, or they can do 1 freestanding sign and 2 wall signs.
Okay, Patrick. By code, what's the number, the maximum number of signs that is permitted? I'm not talking about what they're proposing with the waiver. Do the math.
I don't need to be insulted, okay?
No, no, I'm not insulting you, Patrick. I'm confused because I'm doing the math, and you can
Either
have a
you can-
second on corner lots. You can have a second wall sign,
That's two.
but
So
you
if
can't have, if you have the 2 wall signs, you can't have a freestanding, correct?
No, you can still have a freestanding.
Okay, good. So now we're at 3 signs, right?
Yep, so they can either do that sign package, or if they choose, or they can do the 2 canopy signs. The ordinance says that either you can have the 2 canopies, or a freestanding sign, but it does not allow you both for a gas service station to have the canopy signs plus a freestanding sign.
Okay. So now, say the applicant was not looking for a waiver for the number of signs. They could, like Mark and yourself are saying, they could have 4 signs then. They could have 2 wall signs and 2 canopy signs with 0 freestanding signs, and that would be code.
Yes, that would be code.
That's
Okay,
as I understand the ordinance. Yes, Mr.
great.
Chairman.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Patrick. So
You're welcome.
to carry on, with all the confusion around that particular corner and with the bypass and all, I would hope in the applicant maybe could look at this. Why do we need all those signs? We know there is a gas station. And right now, with all the signs with the bypass and the other gas station, now we're talking about 4 particular signs, and we'll talk about the size later. And now we want an additional freestanding sign permitted. So I think there's too many signs going on in that area. And I know Chicky mentioned also the lighting on it, but also the wall sign should be 20 square feet or less. And I think from what I'm reading, the wall sign proposed is 40 square feet.
And if I can, John, if I can jump in, Chicky, the freestanding max supposedly says, if I'm reading the chart correctly, 30 square feet. And Mike, maybe you can answer, or Bob, a lighted freestanding sign, since you can see it on both sides, does that count as 1 sign or 2 signs? Okay, I'm just wondering, I mean.
Oh, right. And why do we need, with that freestanding, a 75 square foot sign, freestanding sign, when we have all those other signs? I mean, obviously, it's a gas station. So that's my point. So I'm hoping maybe the applicant can maybe look at this waiver for the sign, because I'm not too pleased with so many signs and the size.
Okay, so I found it in Bob's report. It's under F miscellaneous item 2, as well as item 7 in Dave's report. 7.1.
So, Mr. Stammer, if I understand correctly, is that your concern is not only the amount of signs, but also the size of the sign, but also the height of the potential freestanding sign?
That's correct. Yeah, thanks, Patrick. You're correct. The number of signs and also the size, the square footage and so forth.
This is Phil Solili. If I could ask a very basic question, and that is, the applicant define for us why they feel that there is a need for that much signage. I didn't get a feel for how the request was put together or why the need.
Yeah, and I think we're waiting for that testimony.
Mike, could you answer that, please? Or
Can you hear me?
yes, I can.
Okay. Okay, well, I want to answer your question, but just take a baby step backwards and just describe what our existing condition is. Right now, today, we have a freestanding sign at the intersection. I'm highlighting the existing condition. We have 2 canopy signs on either end of the canopy, right, basically in the same place we're proposing on the new canopy. And then we have a building mounted sign on the front of the store and one on the Mountain View Road side of the store. That's 5. That's the existing condition.
Right, and
as
that's
someone-
approved, that's existing, and it's also approved on record?
Right, yeah, actually, the size of the freestanding sign was part of the prior Board of Adjustment approval in 96. And sorry, I'm gonna go to the proposed condition now and
Basically, we have one sign less.
ask, yeah, we're actually one less. So to answer the question about our thoughts on the signs, yes, it's a busy intersection and there are a lot of directional signs. Certainly, we don't want to propose any signage that's going to interfere with directional signs. And all of them all our signs will be on site. We don't think we'll have an adverse impact on directional. What's happening, and I'll describe the traffic patterns. Right now, as you head north on Route 206 past our site, there's no landscaped island in front of our site. There's no prohibition from making a left turn into the site. And you can continue north on Route 206. And then across our site today, you travel south on Route 206. There's no incoming traffic from the bypass on your left, and that's what's going to be added. What's happening is at Mountain View, the bypass, and I'm on the left-hand side of the page now. If you want to continue on old Route 206, you continue straight north like you do today. But if you want to go on to the bypass, you are exiting on this one lane that I'm highlighting on the bottom of the page. If you're coming south on Route 206, as you do today, you continue south on Route 206, and you can make a right on Mountain View. What's not going to be permitted in the new condition is if you're headed north on Route 206 today, not only can't you make a left into our site, but you're not going to be allowed to make a left into Mountain View Road. If you want to make a left onto Mountain View Road, or go south on Route 206, or come into our site, that is, you're headed north on Route 206 and you want to get into these gas stations, you have to go through the intersection. And this is actually open now, this jug handle. You go through the intersection to a jug handle and make basically a U-turn, and you come out at this highlighted new traffic pattern at the bottom right-hand side of the page that I'm showing now. That's how you would go on to Mountain View Road or continue south on Route 206. And that also happens to be the new entrance from the bypass. That is, if you were on the bypass route, the new bypass is open, you would come out onto the old section of Route 206 at this intersection. So there's this added element of this jug handle and the entrance from the bypass that causes a lot going on at this intersection. And it's all being managed by traffic lights that have added overhead arms that I'll say would have an adverse impact on any on-site signage at the gas station. That's part of what we're thinking. In fact, even if you go now, the intersection traffic light that was just installed, and part of the controls for that traffic light are at this triangular shaped piece of property. The applicant transferred ownership to DOT for. There's these large silver control boxes that are, quite a distance up off the ground that again obstruct, I'll say, a vehicle's view either coming from the bypass or coming southbound on Route 206 of the site. So as far as our signage, what we proposed as part of the application, and then I'll get to what the applicant has already discussed because we understood this may be an issue. We saw Mr. Maskey's report, Mr. Euro's report. We're proposing, again, those two canopy mounted signs basically in the same locations as the canopy mounted signs that are on the existing condition. That is one facing Route 206 and one at the corner facing Mountain View Road. We've proposed that new freestanding sign, albeit our relief was to 75 square feet in size, but it's further off Route 206 because of these traffic signal improvements. And then we have a building mounted sign that's shown on the architectural plans. What we would like to propose is a compromise, and we saw this in, I think, partly suggested, I'll say between the lines in Mr. Maskey's report, is he references another recent approval where the freestanding sign was 59 square feet, not 75. What we would propose to do is reduce the size of our 75-foot freestanding sign to 59 square feet. And perhaps this may be an added enhancement to address some of the concerns that have been raised by the board members. Relocate that sign to this island directly in front of our site on Route 206. So further away from the intersection, further away from where there might be directional signs at the intersection, and then further away from, honestly, part of the obstructions that cause an adverse impact to the applicant's site signage in the traffic control devices, both mounted on the ground and overhead lines and traffic signals that go, on pole mounted signs. We would provide that freestanding sign directly in front of our site in that landscaped island. It would be a zero setback because we only have about 7 feet of landscaped island there, but that's where we would propose to put it. And then again, the building mounted sign that's shown on the architect's plan.
Mike, what would
Mike,
be,
it's-
oh, I'm sorry.
Mike,
Chicky,
Go ahead,
Okay.
Chicky. I was
okay.
gonna-
What would be the total height of that sign then? The newly proposed 59 square feet?
We would keep it at the height of the canopy. That's what the applicant is telling me.
Well, what's that height?
That's 17 feet.
That is some, okay, now look, I want to make a comment that, this gas station and the one across Mountain View have both been there a long time. So it's not likely that somebody sees the sign and says, oh, I'm going to pull into this. I've never known this gas station was here before. And while, yes, I agree, that's going to be a crazy intersection. I think it's a long established gas station and a smaller convenience store. So I'm not convinced that you need so many signs, particularly if it's going to be lighted possibly 24/7. And I like it, the idea that it's in the front on the highway, so it's not going to impact, I don't think, will shine onto the residential area.
But I agree with Chicky, Mike, that if you would go to the road where your pointer is, I don't see why it couldn't meet the code of 15 foot and 30 square feet, especially since it's right on the road now. So I would have no problem with that. I'm just letting you know up front.
Mike, Bob Euro, my only concern with relocating the sign to the island along 206 is you got 4 trees going in there now. So the sign as proposed on your plans at 17.5 feet, the bottom part of your panel right now is only 2.5 feet off of grade, where you're going to have your pricing for your various grades of gas. Even if you reduced it to 59 or 60 square feet, that's total of 15 square feet reduction from 75. That's if you're taking total of 3 feet of signage in the vertical. So now you're at 5.5 feet off of grade with the bottom of any of your marquees. I think you're running into visual impacts with the trees that you're proposing, and that'd be one of the concerns.
And Bob and Mike, it's John Stamler. I look at those trees. I don't think those trees belong there anyway. I'm making a left or right into that building. That's going to impede my vision. To me, those 4 trees, I think that's a bad design. Put the sign there and figure something out. But pulling out of there, there's going to be enough problems with traffic where I think those trees just get in the way.
Yeah.
Well, that would be the board's decision whether they want them there or not. They are trying to meet the requirements of your ordinance. And remember, those trees look more of a shade tree type. So as they do start to grow, your only impact to vision will be the diameter of the trunk of the tree, because you're branches will start branching up over a number of years. But again, my concern is with those trees and the sign. Those trees will eventually block that signage, but again, it's going to be the board's decision as to what they want to see there.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Pat Gorman here. The relocation sign, some of the concerns are already addressed by Mr. Euro from my front. By moving that sign there, it actually becomes a little bit more non-conforming. And the reason why is that the ordinance for signs requires that the freestanding signs be placed at least 10 feet from the edge of roadway or the edge of curb, whichever's closer. I'm not sure if that can be accomplished with the base of the sign being as wide it is to do that. In addition, Mr. Stamler made a good point, is that the base of the sign, it could be a hazard for the vision of vehicles turning out in or out of the property.
No, I agree. And plus I would ask the wisdom of putting, things like trees and signs that don't break away right next to a highway in case there's an accident, right? Normally you want breakaway things that are that close to the road. Like lamp, like metal poles and that type of thing. You run into them, they're designed to come down. And this would not be the case if they're shade trees.
Just a few more comments from my end in regards to at least a freestanding sign at least. Will this be an electronic illuminated sign, or will this be using the placards to change the prices?
Electronic, yeah, modern. And we agree with Mr. Euro's comments about the trees, or other people's comments about the trees, and we would relocate those to other locations on site, and to the extent that there's other appropriate low growth landscaping to enhance that front portion of the site, we could do that.
I believe you'll need a waiver from the street trees for the ASDO. Bob?
You're right. Yeah, to the extent we'd need relief from other landscaping requirements, street trees, the relocation of those trees, we would request that as well. And then the site sign would be about 10 feet off the edge of the new curb line along Route 206.
Hey, Mike, it's John Stamler. What's the problem with moving that sign in between the two properties?
Mr. Ford, if you look at your plan, you only have 6 feet 8 inches from the property line to the edge of that island. The rest goes into the DOT right away.
Right. No, I thought your question, Mr. Gorman, was how far the sign would be from the Route 206 curb line. That's what I was giving you a dimension for. But you're right. Our setback of the sign to our property line would essentially be 0, because our property line is 10 feet off the curb line of Route 206. And
Hey, Mike, it's John Stamler. Is that freestanding sign for the gas prices?
yes, it would have the gas prices. That's,
Okay.
important to us.
Right. Why can't, yeah, okay, I understand. Why can't that, since it's only for pricing and not to identify this lot as a gas station, why can't those prices be done, on your right exit?
Well, no, the top part of it's a similar sign that you see at other facilities. The top portion of the site identifies the brand of the gas. In this case, we're want to identify that we're unique from other gas stations in that we have a convenience store. So there's a small portion of the sign below the brand of gas that's the convenience store, because like that's one of the things that distinguishes us from our neighbors to the north. And then the bottom 3 small little lines of sign are the gas prices.
Okay. So Mike, why can't it be located, looking at your diagram, all the way to the left, in between the two properties? Why can't it be located there?
Well, that would be at our southerly boundaries. So if our primary entrances are going to be from the north, and by the time someone sees that, they might be past our property. They would actually see the sign. That's kind of past our entrances.
Yeah, the canopy sign facing that direction.
Right. The canopy sign is just a logo sign or brand. And that's similar to what's out there now. There's two golf logos, if you will, on either side of the canopy. That's
Yeah, but
just,
with the size of the sign that you're proposing, there's gonna be no doubt in my mind, traveling southbound on 206, that you have a gas station and convenience store in there, and then I could see your prices. I don't see why that would be the ideal spot for that sign. And then you could leave your trees.
yeah,
We're not.
yeah.
And how about the customers coming down, the other road?
Hey, coming down northbound, they're gonna see that sign and know ahead of time, even quicker, that you guys exist.
Mountain View Road, if you're coming from the west to the traveling east on Mountain View Road, you're not gonna see any sign, right?
Well, Frank, you're already past this, even if it was in the proposed spot, you're already past the entrance anyway.
Well, you can see it coming down the road though,
But anyway, my question was to the applicant, Frank. So if that sign was located in between the two properties where I'm suggesting, I don't
Yeah,
see what the issue would be there. This way, the whole plan could stay the same, except now you can have that freestanding sign where you wouldn't even need well, you wouldn't need a waiver, but
Well, and again, it would not impact the residential area nearly as much. But I think if they insist on having it at the northerly edge of the property, they've got to do something with the size. It simply, is compared to the gas station across the way, compared to what they have now. I don't see a justification for that size.
no, apples and oranges. I would suggest if it's gonna stay where it's proposed, that it meets code at 15 by 30, 30 square feet.
We want to be consistent with quick check.
right now, our existing sign, I think was outlined in the record, is at 58, yeah, 52 square feet.
Mr. Stamler, I would point out that even if the freestanding sign were reduced to 15 feet in height, and I have 15 feet in height and 30 square feet, it still is not permitted with the two canopy signs.
Correct.
So,
Thanks, Mark.
yes,
Yep.
it meets part of the code, but it does not fully meet the code.
We need to give a waiver for that if we're gonna.
No, right, the waiver is needed.
All
That's
these are-
correct.
All of these
But
are. I
if
might
I was-
point out that none of the information that's proposed on the freestanding sign, as far as I know, would be prohibited on the canopy.
Quick check.
Yeah, I guess, well, I'm sorry, we were just talking a minute here. What the applicant wanted to stress and make clear that everybody understood, what we were suggesting was relocating the sign from closest to the intersection, reducing it to the middle island that is right in front of the site. So our nearest neighbor, which is, to the west, wouldn't have an ability to see the sign because the building and the canopy are structures that are in that line of sight. So that would be in the middle of the property, and it would be reduced in size to be similar to the quick check sign at 59 feet and just slightly larger than our existing sign, which is 52 square feet. And I'm sorry, there was a request that you would go to the 15 feet? Go to 15 feet high. There was a comment earlier. We said we wanted the relief at 17, but we would reduce it to 15. So again, middle of the property, right in the island, not exceeding 59 square feet or similar to quick check, and not exceeding 15 feet high. And we would relocate the trees and provide low growth landscaping there to continue with the enhanced landscape package.
That would be,
Patrick,
that'd be required by the ordinance anyway for a freestanding sign.
And
Can you
we'll
say that
comply.
again, Patrick?
freestanding signs require a landscape base.
So you're gonna have ground cover, Patrick?
Yeah,
Hey, Patrick, if that's the case for a 15-foot sign, 30 square feet, would it fit on that island? Would that, or is it, like you mentioned before, is that too close to the highway?
I mean, as it shows on the plan, they only have 6 feet 8 inches from to the edge of the property line before they go into the right of way. There's a sign detail on sheet 8 of the proposed site plan that the sign could be potentially be larger than that 6 feet 8 inches. So it might need to be designed differently, be skinnier. But that's what it would have to be. But it should have at least enough clearance on the bottom to make sure that the line of sight for traffic entering and exiting the property is sufficient.
Hey, Mike, can the applicant, can you guys fit a sign in there?
Yes.
How the other board members, what's your opinion on that?
I think this is a much improved. I mean, we brought it down to 15 feet. We brought down the size and we put it in a place that can be seen. They've taken away the deciduous trees that are going to block it anyway.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's
Oh,
We
Cut
lost
out.
you.
oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? Chicky?
Yeah.
Okay. Patrick said something about making the sign skinnier, but the height would still be maxed out at 15 feet. Does that reduce the square footage?
Yes,
Well, the sign now is proposed at 5 feet wide.
they don't have to make it any skinnier.
That's not including the poles.
I do, yes, I do grant you that does not include the pole, but I presume the poles are not another foot.
correct. And we can even make the design of the poles part and parcel to the 5 feet. We can fit it in that space.
Okay, thank you.
That's good. That's good. Okay. And
Mr.
Patrick,
Chair,
I'm
Bob
sure,
Duro.
I think with Bob and Patrick, you guys could work on getting that to fit in there, right?
Continue.
Mr. Ford. I would just ask that when you relocate that sign to that island along 206, that you take a look at the DOT sight line requirements from that southerly exiting right turn only driveway to make sure that, you know, it won't impact any drivers and they'll have proper sight distance.
Yes,
Thank you.
The sign is two-sided, I assume?
yes.
And does the square footage we're talking about refer to one side or both together?
One side.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be the same sign in both directions.
Right.
Unless we have a cheaper price in gas for people headed northbound and if you're headed northbound from Montgomery, it's going to be a little pricier than if you're headed southbound.
Come on, Mike, we could get it from Princeton even a higher price. Okay, we finished with this sign. I have 2 other questions.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to summarize and make sure we have a clear record of what we just established.
Go ahead.
That this proposed the freestanding sign that was proposed is now being relocated to the middle of that island. That's going to be to the satisfaction of the planner and the engineer, and that this sign would be 15 feet high and 59 square feet in total area. There is a condition that they would need to meet the DOT standards for the clearance for line of sight, and that the plantings for the trees are going to be removed to make way for the sign to be visible, and therefore requires a waiver on that regard.
I think you
It's
have it.
agreeable to the applicant.
Mike, would Mike, would the, Chicky, would the trees be, it's only 4 trees, would they be relocated, you know,
Yes,
someplace else?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry,
And-
was that 59 or 52?
59.
Okay, it's John again. Patrick, you're saying the new signs is gonna be 59 square feet?
That's what was testified to.
I thought we're going to the 15 by 30.
No, our
30 by
existing,
being square footage, Mr. Stanley.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks, Mark. 15 square, you're right, 15 foot, but 30 square feet. Why do we need 59?
we have 52 today. And
Well, I
Quick
don't
Check
really like
is
to-
another,
Is there a
Yeah.
reason there can't be kept to 52? This is Janine, that it cannot be kept to what the amount is currently? If that's already what you have, could it not be kept to that?
well, I can think that rolls back to part of my testimony earlier where we have 52 today at an intersection that's not anywhere near, I'll say, as complicated and as busy as it's going to get with the bypass. And
But
this
that-
is, just for business viability. And this is really even just for directional, for safety of, you don't want a person making a turn last minute because they don't see something.
But but where the sign is now is on the corner where we're moving it away from. So you're now putting it in a spot that is supposed to be less obstructed with all the lighting. So it's now in a clear space. Why couldn't we keep it the same size as what it was? Because
And
Janine,
And Janine, you're being very kind because I was gonna say, since it's closer to the street and right in the middle of the property, I was gonna suggest stick with the 30 square feet. by code.
All right, John, you go.
Well, also, if it's only 15 feet high and the signage is 5 feet wide, that would put, at 59 square feet, it would put the bottom of the sign just about 3 feet off the ground. Would that block the view of people trying to exit the property going south on 206?
Very good point. Very good.
Yeah. I mean, right across the street has a sign that's only 43 feet. I mean, keeping it to 52, you're not, it's just sticking with what you already had, not having to make it that much bigger.
And that was Bob speaking, right? With the, that's a good point. Pulling out of there, that sign can't be too low.
Well, for Philomena's car, it's okay.
And Mr. Stanley, that's why I requested that they provide a site distance analysis for that exiting movement.
Yep, great.
But
Because,
this goes back to the board's question from the beginning, is that, let's go back to the waivers. Now you have the canopy signs and still the freestanding sign. What's the board's take on this?
the canopies, I have no issue with. It's this freestanding one that,
I have no problem either with them going over. They have it today, so, it's,
no, everything else is fine. I'm just concerned about this freestanding. Do we go 17 feet? That gives you another 2 feet off the bottom, maybe.
No, let John, I disagree. I like the 15 feet and I like keeping it at the current 52 square feet.
Okay, 15 by 52.
Yes.
The applicant, you guys in agreement with this?
Just one more thing to put up, that placing the sign here is going to block potentially the view of that canopy sign facing 206.
Yes, but can't we, Bob or Patrick, can you answer how much clearance from the ground would one need for proper viewing?
Well, normal height for a site distance analysis according to DOT is 3.5 feet off of grade. So, and it goes on the speed of the road and certain angles. That sign can be shifted slightly as off of dead center. But again, Mr. Ford would have to provide that analysis to make sure that either one, they redesign the sign based on whatever square footage is agreed upon, so that you're at the bottom of that sign is at least 7 feet off of grade,
All right.
or it's positioned to a point where the driver sitting at that stop bar is going to see around it or past the front signpost in order to observe oncoming traffic.
So from what I hear, I think the board is mentioned also that stick to, and Bob or Mike, this is for you, a 15 by 15 foot, 52 square feet. And we need 3.5 clearance at a minimum. You think that's possible, or you agree with that, Mike, or the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, this is Mike Ogrodnik, the applicant's attorney. Perhaps we can just patch in Gary Dean, who's our traffic engineer. We had some discussions today, specifically with regard to the signage and the size of the sign that's needed. So can you unmute Gary Dean?
Let's not switch witnesses.
Yeah,
Let's finish with the witness.
We can come back to this if we need to after he testifies, I think.
Unless my quick math is wrong, 15 foot high at either 30 square feet or even 52 square feet is going to still take the bottom of that well above 3.5 feet. Now, I'm not an engineer and I would like confirmation from somebody whose math is a better specialty than mine, but it seems to me that the 3.5 feet isn't even close to an issue.
Well,
That
Mr.
would be
Anderson, if Bob Euro here, if the sign is 15 foot high and the panels appear to be 5 foot in width,
Yes.
and we're talking about, let's say 50 square, what are we looking at? 50 square feet total or 40 square feet?
Well, 30, it was discussed both at 30 and at 52.
All right, let's say 52. So let's for math purposes, if you say 50 square feet at 5, that means your sign panels are going to be 10 feet in total height, which means off that 15 foot, the bottom of that sign will be 5 feet above grade at 50 square foot, 5 foot wide, 15 foot high sign.
I appreciate the confirmation, but that's what I was getting on my calculator.
That's perfect, Mark. You're pretty good.
Does the applicant agree?
52 feet.
Vice Chairman Haynes, you agree as to 30 square feet or 52 square feet?
Well, I'm willing to go 52 at 15 feet height.
Right. I would put that in my motion, 15 foot high, 52 square feet. But it's up for the application now. And of course, Patrick brought up too, or Bob, we got to get some ground cover on. No, Patrick did. We need ground cover on there and so forth, but you guys could work that out.
Correct. It's required by the sign ordinance.
Ground cover is not going to obstruct the view.
Not at 1 foot or 6 inches or whatever, right?
Keep in mind that, the curb line is actually about another 8, 9, 10 feet past this sign. So, most people pull out to the curb.
Yeah. I think you're bringing up, we don't have to, Frank, I think we're fine. We just have to get an agreement on the sign.
Well, Mr. Samler, of course, it's up to the board ultimately. I certainly understand that the board would like to achieve agreement where possible, but it's still the board's call.
Right.
Okay. Mike Ford speaking. We started this dialogue when Patrick was reading off the list of the conditions. And I think what you just said is the same list that Patrick was reading, with the exception of it not being limited at 59, but at 52 square feet. So it would be 15 feet high, 52 feet total square footage. Address any lines of sight, relocate the trees, provide foundation plantings around the sign per the code, and relocate it to the middle island there where its setback from the property line is essentially 0. And that's acceptable to the applicant.
Okay, great.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, did we kill the sign?
I think we put
Well,
a fork.
we're okay with the waivers for the canopy signs and for the freestanding sign, even though the one canopy sign will be partially blocked by view from the relocation of the freestanding sign.
Gorman, I don't think I understand your comment that.
I'm sorry, one of the canopy signs is facing west on the canopy.
But it's the edge of the freestanding sign that, if anything, would be blocking it.
We don't know that because we haven't established a location yet.
Well, the applicant has already said this is a two-face sign, so presumably it's facing north and south along the 206.
Right, I agree. I don't think we have an issue.
It's just, from a planning perspective, it's just a bit of overkill because you're providing enough signage at one in about 100 square feet of area.
In case there's any doubt, I certainly didn't mean to question Mr. Gorman's comment as to the planning issues.
Tricky. Patrick, I didn't understand what you just said.
So if you remember if you reflect back to the report, the canopy signs are going to be 30 square feet in size. Okay, so when you relocate the sign to, let's say, the island at some point in the middle, the sign, the freestanding sign is effectively going to block the view to a degree of this canopy sign from a certain direction. The board's concern, if I recall, the board's concern was the size and the amount of signs that were needed to properly advertise the property.
The board's concern?
Oh, we had no concern, Patrick.
Yeah, Patrick, I don't understand that.
We're fine.
Also, Patrick, why couldn't they turn one of the signs on the edge of the canopy facing the northbound traffic on the one end, instead of it being facing out where it is to both lanes? Why couldn't it be, why couldn't they potentially use that one extra canopy sign and turn it to face like the direction where the vet office is? And that gives them actually another bit of exposure for somebody coming north.
I didn't think we had an issue with the canopy signs.
Still requires a
sign-
waiver. The initial concern was the amount of signage on the property.
Yeah, I think we're fine with that now.
Okay.
Can I help possibly? The suggestion that was just made, I'm going, sorry. It won't go to my exhibit. The sign, oh, here it is. Okay, the sign, the canopy mounted sign that's facing Route 206. Ginny, I think there was a suggestion to consider moving it to the south side of that canopy facing that vet clinic. And we would do, at the board's direction, we could move it around to the corner. That's acceptable to the applicant as well. That would
Good.
help
Sounds
solve
good.
this. Okay.
That would be a better sign design than having it point where it wasn't, right? To Janine's point. It would make more
Yes.
sense, okay? And it make more
Yes.
sense to the applicant, okay?
It probably works better for the applicant.
Thank you.
So therefore, from the board's comments, the applicant will no longer need the height waiver for the freestanding sign.
Right, we're at 15 feet now.
Right.
Right, just the square footage, right? We're saying 52 and isn't code 30 square feet?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
But it matches what's existing now, so
Which
Okay.
the Board of Adjustment in all its wisdom approved back in 1996.
Can we put a fork in this sign now?
It's a sign
It's
that,
done.
because I
So
have,
getting back to the motion, we're gonna motion that this, of course, that the sign is 15 by 52 square feet, which we need a waiver for, gets approved with, of course, relocating the trees, relocating the sign to the street, and also with the other signs, right, where we want to approve the 2 canopy signs and the 1 wall sign, correct? So we got 1 freestanding, 2 canopy, and 1 wall, correct?
That's what I have.
Okay, good. Thank you. I think, let's move on.
Okay, so does anybody else have any questions, for Mike? Because I have 2. Okay, hearing none. Okay, so my questions are back at the landscaping section. I'm not sure if you covered these, maybe you did. Item 7, this is in Bob's report. Okay, and it covers the average illumination. Permitted is half a candle and 1.72. And why is that needed? Why does it, is it going to look like Luna Park there with that much?
No, but this is really typical of gas stations, and the lighting is intensified because right under the canopy where you do have a lot of interaction and movement, that causes this overall increase in average. And the item, I did address this earlier, items 7 and 8 require the waivers, Mr. Chairman, but then in item 9 and 10, Mr. Euro suggests some items regarding the lighting, and we would agree to comply with those suggestions to, help with the lighting. That is the house side shields, to direct it exactly where it needs to go, and not having any lights on past when we're in operation. So if we're not, in a mode where we're 24/7, then we wouldn't have it on.
Okay. And as far as number 8, the height, you're going up to 20 feet. That gets pretty high.
Right. The trucks traveling through the site, there's, the arms for the lights. So we're just trying to, and if we reduce the height of the lights, then you actually end up with more frequent lights, not as, it's less spacing if you go a little higher.
So how far down would the arms hang from a 20-foot pole? This is not going to be a railroad bridge in
I'm
Minnesota.
saying the box out from the light, it's mounted next to the curb.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it's still 20 feet, the box.
correct.
Now, is that being that height, those houses down nearby, are they going to be, and remember, they're going to have a development across 206 in the future. So is that going to be throwing a lot of light over to the residential?
No, actually, on our sheet 6 on our plan, we identify on the lighting plan, the foot candles at our property line. And by the time you get to the residential, it's at 0. And with the house side shields, that would absolutely cut off any glare.
Okay, so they wouldn't see the source of the light with the shields in.
Right.
Hey, Mike, this is Bob Euro. Would you
Yes.
have a problem, as I'm looking at sheet 6? I don't really have too much of an issue with the 20-foot high lights, with the exception of the 2 at the rear of the building on your one-way exiting circulation drive.
Yes.
The 2 that sort of back up against the residential properties, could you lower those to 15? Because your patterns, your isometric patterns
Yes.
overlap pretty much. So you would
Yeah.
still have the proper coverage.
Good suggestion, Mr. Yo, and we would do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead.
So the 20-foot high post will require a waiver from the ordinance because 15 feet is the maximum. The ASDO actually has some lighting standards. If Mr. Ford can please address them real quick. They're listed on page, oh, I just had it. Page 11 of Mr. Maskey's report. They are concerned about decorative lighting and light spacing mostly.
Okay. We're proposing the what is common now, I'll say sleek looking, not shoebox lights, but the sleek looking LED energy efficient lighting. We only have 2 pole mounted lights other than the 2 that we just referenced at the rear of the site. And there's one along our southerly border common with the exit driveway headed south on 206, and then one light mounted, pole mounted light on the Mountain View Road side. So in total, we only have those 4 pole mounted lights on the entire site. We're not showing any, I'll say, this is not like, I'll say downtown Hillsborough, so we're not using a gas light looking fixture. The style of it, if you will, the style is a standard pole mounted light with a small LED. They don't even look like shoe boxes anymore because the LEDs are small too. They're just thin lights.
So it's a modern shoebox light, basically.
So
Correct.
essentially, you're not decorative lighting. So you're going to need waivers from these aspects in the report, correct?
Correct.
And finally, the lights underneath the canopy, will they be recessed?
They're recessed under the light, under the canopy, yes.
Great.
Any more questions, Patrick, Robert, any members of the board?
No, not that I have. I think you covered the questions about the illumination.
Okay,
Nothing further, Mr. Chair.
good. At this point, I'm going to ask a motion to open public. We'll hear from the public. Do I hear a motion? Do I hear a motion? John?
Motion to open.
Okay, second? Anybody in favor? Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those
Aye.
opposed? Okay, we're open for public. At this point, we'll open the line for any questions for this witness from members of the public. And I don't see it on my screen, Fred, but how many people are out there right now that might want to ask a question?
Well, there's a couple, but I'm going to start first. This is Fred Kinsler, 5 White Meadow Road. As a public person here in town, I've been listening to the entire signage talk, and I actually think you guys made it worse by moving the sign onto the highway of 206 versus the corner. If you're looking at the
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I need to interrupt.
Sure.
This is open for questions of the witness.
Right.
The comments from the public are, of course, appropriate. The board needs to hear those, but this is not the place for comments.
Okay, I'll rephrase it then. Mr. Ford, do you feel the sign is better suited on 206 or the corner where it was originally established?
Yeah. Now, in discussions with the applicant and the traffic consultant, and looking at the existing conditions with the recent improvements at the intersection, and then also the fact that the DOT took away part of the property that the applicant owned, the triangular shape, which, pushed the sign further back onto the site. We thought that this other option directly in front of the site was a better location. It also helped to address any concerns about our nearest neighbors to the west. So the applicants feels this is the best resolution to the sign dilemma.
Okay, thank you. I'll reserve my comments for later. Let me open it up, Chairman Herbert. There's 2 people that are on that have their hands raised, so I'll take care of that. The first one is George Mariaz. George, I'm going to allow you to talk. Please state your name and address for the record. If you could unmute yourself.
Okay. This is George Marias. I'd like to ask a question about the exit entrance off of Mountain View Road, the eastern exit. Was there any consideration made for the people that may be coming out of the other gas station to come in and use the convenience store, they would be shooting across the road to come into that entrance. So was there any thought about just making that an exit only and designing the island so it's curved and you could only come out, you can't go in there?
Yeah, right now, the traffic pattern, I think for anybody exiting across the street would be make a right turn and come in our westerly driveway to the convenience store. And that's really where the parking is along Mountain View.
Yeah, that's the logical way you'd want people to do it, but human nature is drivers are like rats. They'll go into the first opening they see. So people, will see that opening and they're going to go for it. And we see that all over the town.
Yeah.
Just a comment.
Right.
That's all I had. Oh, the other question I had about the signage from the current location, can the sign be moved 10 feet west and still be visible to the highway and give you all the viewage that you need?
Yeah, that would be even further away from 206, and that wouldn't be a preference of the applicant. Is again, considering what's going on at this intersection, which is, I think, going to be unlike any other intersection in the town.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, George. All right. Susan Gulliford, if you could please, again, I'll unmute you. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Susan Gulliford, Hunt Club Road.
Okay, Susan, go ahead.
Okay, my first question, when Mr. Ford, in his testimony, he mentioned the hours of operation, and I thought he said 24/7, and he just mentioned if they went to 24. But I remember the Environmental Commission meeting, the memo of March 2nd, the hours of operation would remain the same at 5 a.m. to midnight. Which is it?
Yeah, right now we are unrestricted 24/7. We're permitted to. We don't necessarily operate now. We want the flexibility. The flexibility that we have today, we'd like to continue.
Okay, so the Environmental Commission memo, it just didn't extend to say we would like that option.
Correct.
Okay. On Mountain View Road, eastbound, the two lanes that are at the stoplight, the left turn only, yeah, and the right turn only. Is that going to remain the same length up to that first entrance into the gas station?
We're making no changes to Mountain View Road, no changes to the road itself, and that's all consistent with what DOT is planning to do as part of their intersection improvements.
Okay, I'm asking, I know you said Mr. Dean would probably be up later, because I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different areas that are going to add traffic to this area. And I just questioned whether that same length would still be adequate, but I'll hold off on that. Thank you.
Okay, Chairman, that's they're the only people. That's all the public comments at this moment.
Hey, Fred, it's Patrick speaking. The people that call in from using the number on Zoom, would they also be on the view right now on the gallery?
Absolutely not.
So we wouldn't know if someone's calling in from the public on the outside on the numbers provided for Zoom.
There are 2 people that are attending this meeting that are not panelists or professionals that you see. There is only 2. And no, you will not see them on the list of panelists. You only see the panelists.
Right, I think the question was, does anybody call the 800 number that's provided in the agenda?
The 800 number, there is no 800 number. It's the Zoom numbers. They would call in and be an attendee the same as everybody else.
Okay.
Okay, so the agenda, okay, I misunderstood that. So it says, what telephone 301-715-8592? That's the Zoom.
That's correct. That's a Zoom number. If you call that number, you come into the Zoom meeting, just audio only as an attendee.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got confused that with the AT&T number that we used in the past.
No problem. Understood.
Thank you for the clarification, Fred.
Sure, no problem. So Chairman, that's all the public that have questions at this moment.
Okay, so you remuted the lines. I think we're ready to go on to the next witness then.
Correct.
Excuse me, Mr. Herbert. I didn't realize that we were going to be opening the public portion so early. I think that Mr. Euro and I can finish up our reports from Mr. Ford real quick.
Okay.
Bob, did you have anything else regards to accessibility or about cross access easements or anything?
No, I do not. My only outstanding comment, I think Mr. Ford said would be addressed by the owner regarding the operation, truck deliveries, etc.
And you're also satisfied with the waivers that were for the parking standards and the loading?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Chairman, just to follow up with a few questions that were left over from Mr. Maskey's report, and then we can move on. I'm sorry to hold up the board.
No, go ahead.
Mr. Ford, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. Mr. Ford, I'm looking on page 6 of Mr. Maskey's report under the under access.
Yes.
We're going to go down to the cross access that the ASDA requires. Is there any reason why there can be a tie-in to the above driveway?
Yeah.
Going west?
Yeah, you're talking about the existing, I believe what's referenced in that report is the existing access driveway to the car wash and the animal vet clinic off of
correct.
Mountain View Road to the west of our site. That property is in the residential zone. It's owned by the car wash owner, and the applicant did approach him at the beginning of this planning process, and they were not interested in offering any or allowing any connection to the driveway. And then as we developed the site plan, we also thought that it would be best if we didn't have or encourage more of our traffic from our site, which is primarily going to be out to 206, any closer to our nearest residence. That is, keep our driveway away from our residents, our nearest residents to the west. So we're not proposing any cross access.
Okay, thank you. The second comment was about sidewalks. Is DOT planning to put any sidewalk in on 206 or Mountain View as part of the project, or is the applicant?
Yeah, the answer is no to both questions, not to our, knowledge. DOT is not planning it, nor is the applicant proposing it.
Okay, and then along the sidewalk around the proposed convenience store, would there be any obstructions on the sidewalk, such as Bob Bureau mentioned, any propane tank cages, ice machines, hot red box dispensaries or soda machines that would potentially push people into the parking lot from the sidewalk?
The answer is yes, and to the extent there is, well, not to push people out into the parking area, but we have we've purposely provided a wider sidewalk along the front of the building, and we actually have on the south east corner of the building, adjacent to the sidewalk, an air filling, abilities. So to the extent there's anything on that sidewalk, it would be in that wider portion of the sidewalk across the front of the building and not obstruct pedestrians walking or cause them to walk out into the parking.
Okay, good. Thank you for answering that. And one last question goes on page 8 of the memorandum. If we go down to landscaping and tree mitigation, last paragraph is based on the tables provided on sheet 5. The project has a tree mitigation requirement for 8 trees, all of which are proposed are to be provided. However, it's not clear of what percentage of the existing trees are being removed. Just to make you aware that variance would be required for removing more than 60% of the trees on the site. Can you please provide testimony on this?
Yeah, we have 6 total trees on site by my count, and we're impacting 3 of them, which is 50%. Therefore, we comply, and no relief is requested.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for your time. No further questions.
Can I ask a question? Going to page 6 of Mr. Maskey's report, where it talks about parking design standards. You're proposing 9 by 18-foot stalls. I know this has come up before in other applications, and we do ask, is there a reason we can't keep to the 10 by 20-foot stalls considering sizes of cars, and it's a pretty tight area?
Yeah, the existing condition is that way. This was a design waiver that was issued in 96, and this is consistent, I think, really with the current, it's that balancing act of providing enough area for parking and maneuvering of cars while also trying to not provide an overabundance or more than you need of impervious coverage. So we're proposing and are requesting the relief for the 9 by 18 spaces.
Mike, I have a question. I was going to wait, but you have 17 spaces, I think, plus a handicap. What is going to be your maximum number of employees at any time, store and gas pumps?
That was the 3, and that was actually, I think, a question Mr. Euro had earlier. 3, which would be, 2 attendants and 1 in the convenience store. Yes. That's similar to what operates now.
So just 1 in the store of that size?
Right.
Okay, I missed Bob's question. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, the one that always concerns me is the 24 feet backing up, but that's still enough, right?
Yeah, and we only have that 24 feet along the access aisle on Mountain View. Across the front here, there's a 30-foot access aisle beyond where the filling positions are.
Yeah, okay, and on Mountain View, you're not backing into other cars then.
Well, yeah, right. You're right. There's no parking on the opposite side. Correct.
Yeah. That was just shop right that I almost got backed into again. So. Any more questions or comments before we go to the next witness?
Mr. Chairman, because there has been more testimony from Mr. Ford, it is necessary to reopen to the public. Although the public should be cautioned that would be only questions involving the testimony that Mr. Ford has given, since the public had a chance to ask questions before.
Hey, Fred, would you open it up again for those questions?
Sure. If anybody in the public would like to ask questions on Mr. Ford's new testimony, you could please raise your hand. There are none, Mr. Chairman, so you can proceed.
Okay, so let's go on to the next witness.
So we have Gary Dean is our traffic engineer. We have Mike Testa, who is our licensed architect. And we also have Art Bernard, our professional planner. Mike Ford, could you just go to slide 3? What I would suggest is if there's any, starting with our architect, if there's any questions that the board or the public may have, you could see this is a relatively straightforward design. We believe it's an improvement. So I would ask if the board has any questions for Mike Testa, our architect. Otherwise, I don't anticipate to elicit testimony.
Okay, if there's any questions, you do have to swear him in. So.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is Bob Euro. The only question would be if you can just touch briefly on the materials that are going to be provided.
Okay, if you would swear in your witness, please.
Who is this gonna be now?
Michael Testa.
Michael Testa, okay, so he's number 2. Okay, I don't see him, oh, there you are. Right, how do I get rid of the picture, the PowerPoint and get everybody's faces on the screen? Because I only have 3 or 4 faces.
Yeah, you,
Want to leave it up there.
there should be a view up the top that you should see more gallery view, but we have the applicant's video spotlighted, so you won't be able to get rid of that totally.
Okay,
Oh.
why don't we briefly
There
do
should be an
that?
arrow that you can scroll, but as Mike talks, you should be able to see him as one of the panelists.
Yeah, I can, but people
Okay.
talk before the picture comes up, so
Sure.
it's like not really conducive for me. All right, Mr. Testa, can you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear a testimony you're about to give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, just state your name and spell for the record.
Sure. First name is Michael, last name Testa, Testa. Licensed architect in good standing in the state of New Jersey since 1996. Graduate of New Jersey Institute of Technology, architecture background. In 1991, principal owner of the firm Michael V. Testa Architect since 2002. And have been registered in New Jersey and probably 15 other states, NCR certified, have not testified in front of this board yet. Tonight's my first night.
But you have testified before other boards, right?
Yes, I have most recently Montgomery Township for the Village Walk project.
You can accept your qualifications.
Great, thank you. Mr. Euro, good evening. Good to see you again. The building materials you see in front of you is unfortunate that the rendering is kind of cut off. This is kind of somehow got corrupted in a sense with the text. But the front facade is the top left corner. You can see that we have a brick veneer flanking each side with pilaster elements with centered areas inside those brick with a split face CMU and a cement plaster finish above the main entrance. There is a canopy that projects outward that has diagonal brackets back to the building and an aluminum glass storefront, again with a masonry base of the building. The building materials wrap around all 4 sides. The rest of the 3 sides are predominantly brick, as you can see moving below that image and to the right of that image. There are architectural accents in that brick with horizontal elements. There's also the base is continuous around all 4 sides with cast stone cap at the bottom water table. The building also has enhanced features such as gooseneck light fixtures that are just predominantly there for aesthetic purposes, not there to light up the walkway or driveway. They're on all 4 sides to keep the base of the building illuminated for safety purposes. We have a continuous parapet that runs around all 4 sides with a very ornate and decorative cornice element at the top of that parapet. There was also a question, I think, too, as far as access onto the roof. If you can see in the top right-hand corner on the right-hand side, there's a cutout in that parapet with a small ladder element that hangs down. So if someone was to access it to service equipment, they would just basically put their ladder up to that and they'd be able to continue to climb onto the roof. As you can see, the 2 bottom elements, the building elements on the canopies is identical to the main building to keep the 2 structures looking continuous on the site. We have brick piers on facing the roadway with horizontal accents and the split face block base. And again, that ornate decorative cornice element along the top edge of the canopy. The signage that was discussed in length, it'll be built into the cornice element and attached to the face of the canopy.
Mr. Testa, this is Bob. Mr. Euro, just orientate the building so the right side elevation, as noted, where will that face?
That will be
based on the
facing
site plan?
That'll be facing the Mountain View side. Those are 2 egress doors in the middle of that, the dark gray elements. To the right side are a pair of doors to an electric room. And then to the left side are a CO2 or propane tank. Now, to continue the discussion earlier, we can move those cages if the owner has them, to the front walk, which will be a larger walk if
Well,
need be.
my concern is if you just testified that that right elevation faces Mountain View.
Correct.
If you have those cages for CO2 and propane storage, that's going to occupy the 4-foot wide sidewalk at the head of those parking spaces, which is going to be unacceptable.
That's not a problem. We can relocate that to the wider sidewalk that Mr. Ford has prepared at the front of the building.
Or I have no problem if you want to relocate those to the left side where it would be facing the other commercial property. And Mr. Ford would just have to provide a little extra bit of sidewalk so it can be accessed.
I have no objection to that.
Let me ask you this question. Would that be safer to have propane, people run into stores? Could they also run into propane tanks if it's on that side of the building?
If
They're in a protective cage, and it's a pretty standard cage that's on most convenience stores, Home Depot, Lowe's. It's the same kind of containment of the propane tank on other commercial properties.
Okay, good. So it could stop a car from accidentally jumping the curb and everything?
Yeah, but Mr. Herbert, Mr. Euro, again, if we relocate those cages to the left side of the building, there is a larger grassed area where there will be no impact from any vehicles. They won't have an availability of running into them.
I was just doubling down on a good idea.
So okay, so the proposal is move the cages to the left side of the building, and was that an agreement?
Yes.
Mr. Ford speaking, yes, the applicant will agree to do that. Mr. Euro's suggestion is an excellent one.
I have no further questions on the proposed architecture.
And now we have Mr. Testator. Does any members of the board have questions for him? Hearing none. Any questions from the public for this witness? Fred, would you open the line? And see?
Mr. Herbert, I'm sorry, Chair Herbert, if you may, I'd like to address some of my concerns.
Okay.
Mr. Testa, have you had an opportunity to examine our plan report produced on March 4th, 2020?
Yes, and I contacted Mr. Maskey in regards to that and drafted a letter on February 20 in response to that.
Sure thing.
And pretty much indicating that we felt that we were in compliance to most of it, except for 3 items. And I gave examples on how we felt that our lack of compliance was just with the situation that we have with the conformance, the size of the building, the appearance and materials, storefront on the front facade only opposed to the sides, and the roof being flat allows us with at least the minimum height parapet is 3 foot 5 inches, which will completely shield the rooftop units from all 4 sides of the building and keeping and maintaining aesthetically pleasing facades as well.
Okay, sure thing. I just wanted to have that on the record. Mr. Chair, there will be there are a few waivers that have come up just because of the relocation of the canopy sign along the frontage of 206 and removal of the trees that the ordinance required street trees, which are not the case anymore since they'll be moved to a different part of the property.
Because just say again so I understand it.
Yeah, so the board we made the motion to change the location of the freestanding sign from the initial location to along 206.
Correct.
As such, the street trees will be removed along 206, so an additional waiver will need to be is required for not providing those street trees.
And that follows from what we asked them to do anyway, so we have to. Okay. Okay. Again, any questions from members of the board or professionals? This witness. In that case, Fred, would you just open up the line for questions from the public?
Sure. Anybody from the public who has a question for this witness, please raise your hand. Seeing none, Chairman, you can continue.
Okay. And Mr. O'Connor, next witness.
So we have two more witnesses. We are gonna, we can open it up to Gary Dean, our traffic engineer, if there's any questions, but I don't anticipate to elicit any testimony.
Go ahead. So, because there might be questions from what we did earlier for him with the signs.
Okay. So I'd ask to swear in Gary Dean of Dean and Dolan and Dean.
Good evening.
Good.
Mr. Dean, can you raise your hand? Do you solemnly swear testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Oh, just state and spell your name for the record.
Sure. Gary Dean, Dean. Professional address is 181 West High Street in Somerville, New Jersey.
Tell us a little about yourself.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I've appeared before you prior, although which application escapes me, but I've been regularly appearing in Hillsborough over the past 35 years. Been previously qualified as an expert in traffic engineering. And I'd say the more significant applications with which I have worked include the conversion of the former, gosh, I think it was an Edwards Stop and Shop and now is undergoing a new renaissance. The Apex Sports Facility further to the west on Mountain View Road, among others. I'm a licensed professional engineer. My license remains in good standing.
We can accept the qualifications. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So does anybody have questions?
Mr. Euro has no questions of Mr. Dean.
Okay. John, do you have any questions since we moved the sign up to the front of the building about impacts on traffic coming off the new bypass or anything like that?
Was that question to me, Frank? John?
Yeah, that's what, because yeah, basically because we moved a sign, you know, where we did the highway. Do we have any questions from the traffic engineer about it?
No, we're good.
And I have none either. So anybody else? Fred, would you open it up? Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Mark Anderson, particularly since Mr. Dean is now sworn and qualified, it might be useful for him to answer the more open-ended question. Does he see any traffic impact that would be of any concern or benefit for that matter as to the proposed relocation of the sign?
I'll gladly field that question. When we received the planning and engineering comments regarding the original proposal, I discussed this matter directly with the applicant, and we felt that as a compromise to work with the township, there would be a disadvantage in lowering the height of the sign in that it becomes potentially occluded by, as Mr. Ford described, the traffic signal equipment. So it was my recommendation actually that it would be more visible and more effective to position it between the two site driveways on Route 206 so that it would be more visible to approaching motorists. This is critical in that gas stations are absolutely unique in that they're the only land use where a customer literally makes an instantaneous decision to visit that particular site based on two criteria. One is the brand, and secondly is price. And without having that information readily available so that a motorist can make that decision, it does begin to compromise traffic safety. And as we look at this relatively unconventional intersection reconfiguration, I felt having it where it would be most effective was appropriate. And that allowed us, candidly, to be able to reduce it to your prescribed height. So I do believe there is a substantial benefit in the relocation, and I think it will be a more effective location for, again, enhanced traffic safety.
Frank, if I can jump in, Chicky, look, I think we've beaten the sign to death. We have an agreement to move it and to reduce the size. So, you know, let's move on from the sign.
That's good.
I agree. Mr. Chairman, Bob Euro, just had a thought. Mr. Dean, I know I've asked of Mr. Ford and we haven't heard any testimony. Do you have any information regarding the frequency of deliveries or truck traffic on the site and how the circulation is efficient or impacted by the proposed design?
The proposed design makes it better in that I don't think Mr. Ford touched upon it, but the current orientation of the dispensers and fueling positions is parallel to Route 206. So as a tanker enters the site, it essentially blocks access to the southernmost dispensers. The proposed design now orients the dispensers perpendicular to Route 206, and that allows the fueling customers to then face the MART building, but it also doesn't impede their access to the fueling positions when the tanker happens to be delivering fuel product, which is at the very southern end of that last dispenser. The truck circulation pattern is to make a right turn at the southerly driveway, proceed to the west, stop, it drops or dispenses from the right-hand side of the truck, and then that truck can circulate behind the building and continue back out to Mountain View. So I believe the improvements certainly make it a better flowing site.
And do you have any idea on the frequency of deliveries on the fuel, or is that still an applicant's testimony?
It's a function of how much product they're selling. I wouldn't characterize this site as busy as, for example, some of the more almost superstore sites, such as Quick Check further north and Wawa elsewhere in the county. If I had to estimate, and again, we can ask the applicant, but I would say 1 to 2 deliveries per week would be my estimate based on the volume by traffic counts that we collected during our study.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any more questions?
Mr. Dean, Pat Gorman here. Just one question. Can the entrances of the property properly accommodate a semi truck if it wanted to come for diesel fuel on the side of the on the northern side of the property?
I'm not understanding the question, Mr. Gorman. I'm
So
sorry.
the question is the entrances on the property, can they properly accommodate if it was to be a semi truck or a larger truck? Because there is a diesel fuel pump located on the northern part of the property away from the canopies.
Yeah, that's what I'm not understanding. I'm looking at the site plans and I see, well, it does say relocated, and I'll have to ask Mike Ford, where's it being relocated?
Well, let's not switch witnesses. If you don't know the answer, then maybe Mr. Ford has to be recalled.
Oh, no, forgive me. I see what he means. It's being relocated about 5 feet further south, Mr. Gorman. It's on the very southern edge of the overall parking perimeter. So that allows the truck that will be stopping for diesel fuel to enter the same way as the delivery vehicle, and then just proceed, I'll call it, to the southeast corner of the building, where that truck will stop away from parking and automobile fueling areas. And then that exiting truck would continue in a clockwise manner around the southerly and westerly side of the MART building.
And you believe it can make a safe turn onto Mountain View Road without interfering with oncoming traffic on route coming from Route 206?
That is correct. The truck will circulate and will face in a northerly direction and then exit out onto Mountain View, where the eastbound lanes will be, we'll say, 2 lanes wide. They won't be striped that way under the DOT plan, but the width will be there. So that will allow that truck to circulate essentially as it does today.
Mr. You're okay with that statement?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
More questions? Fred, would you open it up to questions from the public then, please?
Sure. Again, remember, public, please, when I unmute you, state your name and address for the record, please.
Susan Gulliford, Hunt Club Road.
Okay, Susan, thank you.
Mr. Dean did not mention his traffic impact assessment report that was in there, but I do have a question about pages 3 and 4 on that, the trip generation reports.
Okay, I have the report.
Okay, you're talking about the existing convenience store as instantaneous or pass-by traffic. But with all the changes that are going to take place in that area, the bypass, which would be what do you call it? Pass-by traffic. The previously presented Chase Partners, which had hundreds of units, Hillsborough 206 Holdings, I'm sorry, which had 175 units. The Apex Sports Complex and the new Parkview development. I think that convenience store is going to be more of a destination almost than a pass-by trip. What's your thoughts on that?
Sure.
I think,
No, that's a good observation. Understand that when traffic engineers conduct studies, we look at those periods when the road is busiest. And that's typically our weekday, we'll say morning and afternoon commuter rush hours. We during those particular times, seldom does somebody come out to a gas station convenience store just to make a special trip. The overwhelming majority, and our firm has done face-to-face studies for Quick Check and Wawa, and we've actually polled customers, and well over 90% are already on the road. They're commuting, they're stopping at that particular or any given location because it's convenient. What you do raise, though, is other times of the day that we haven't studied because naturally traffic isn't quite as busy. And for example, evening, post dinner, when maybe someone needs medicine or bread for tomorrow's school lunches, someone will in fact go out and make an intentional or special trip just to go to the convenience store. But not during peak hours. It just, who would do that? It's generally inconvenient during those periods simply to go to the store. It's not to say it never happens, but fairly infrequently.
so professionally then, you don't think, even though the addition of maybe 600 dwelling units down there, apartments, since they would be off peak, it didn't affect your figures that much?
Again, my figures are only for peak hours. So that's, we study when the system will say is loaded the most or traffic is busiest and most constrained. So we didn't study 10 o'clock at night or noon, for example. It's just not as busy as rush hours.
Okay, they were just talking about delivery trucks going in there also. If the sales volume goes up, no matter what hour, you're going to have more sales volume and more deliveries, but you don't feel also that would make that much of a change?
Again, let's say gas volume goes through the roof. It would be the applicant's desire to have that, but at most that would be a delivery truck a day. So is it occurring at rush hour? No, it's occurring at off-peak times. So it's not interfering with the bulk of their traffic. But one extra truck per day, literally, unless someone stood at the site and monitored, is imperceptible from a traffic perspective. So I'm comfortable with representing that it will not have a material impact on overall traffic activity, even if the site is as busy as, say, a Quick Check or a Wawa, which is unlikely.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure if I was clear. I'm sorry, I didn't mean gasoline delivery trucks. I was thinking of delivery trucks for the convenience store. So thank you.
You're welcome.
That is all from the public, Chairman, so you may continue.
Okay, Mr. Grodnick, I guess we're on to your next witness then.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My last witness is Art Bernard of Art Bernard and Associates. I would ask that he to be sworn in. And unless there's any objection, we're just going to go over the relief requested for the D variance. And if there's any questions as to the C bulk variances, certainly he's here to answer any questions. But we just wanted to put a brief record on planning testimony for the D variance.
Mr. Grodnick, certainly the D variance in a situation like this is considered to be the most important or the primary, but the board should certainly have at least basic planning testimony as to the appropriateness and validity of the C variances.
Very good.
Great. Proceed.
You see me and hear me?
Yeah, yeah, you're good. Just talk up. You're on.
Good evening.
Oh,
We're all in the Van Cleef Engineering Building. I don't know if you can see me, but
No, we really
can't.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, this is Fred Kinsler. Mike, do you feel it necessary to keep your slide up, or can we switch to, to the other view? Does the board
no, we want to switch
necessary to see his presentation any further, or can we get rid of his presentation?
I think we're finished.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do that. And now everybody should be able to jump, and now as people talk, they'll be able to be seen. So Mike, go ahead and speak for the group, or
I can see him.
okay. Thank you, Chairman. That helped.
Good evening.
Hopefully that helped.
We need qualifications and to be sworn in.
well,
Sure.
wait, raise your hand. I don't know who you are. Oh, that's you over there? You're so far
Me.
away. Do you solemnly swear testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, state your name and spell it for the record.
My name is Art Bernard, and my last name is spelled Bernard.
Okay, I was wondering, Mike, can he sit in your seat and use your laptop? Maybe
Sure.
Maybe you can come here, Mike.
So now I'm over here.
no. I was thinking, Mike, didn't you have your own camera in that laptop?
Yeah, and it says Mike Ford right there, and that's where,
Yeah.
Wave your arm, Mark.
Okay.
Wave it. See him?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see everybody in the office.
Chairman, this is Fred Kinsler. The reason Mike had the other laptop was for the presentation. That laptop is muted and the speaker's off, so it would be preference to keep him where he is right now.
Okay.
yeah, okay.
Let's proceed. Tell us about your qualifications, please.
Sure. I'm the managing member of my own firm. I have a master's in city and regional planning, and I'm a licensed professional planner and have been in New Jersey over the last 40 plus years. I've testified before boards all over the state. I've been in front of your planning board, I guess, 5 or 6 times over the last year.
We can accept your qualifications.
Thank you. Let me, we're here tonight because, I'm here tonight because the applicant needs a D variance and several C variances. So we'll just talk a little bit about I'll do the D variance positive criteria first and then move on to the positive criteria for the C variances. The D variance we need is a conditional use variance. The gasoline station and the convenience store is a conditional use within the C1 zone, but we don't meet one of the conditions, and that condition is that the property be 100 feet from a residential zone. And we're not 100 feet from residential zone. We're right on adjacent to the residential zone. So we need that relief. And my job in order to get that variance is to convince you that the site's still particularly suited for the use, even though it is within 100 feet of that residential zone. And my thinking on it goes that the site's suitable for the use for basically the same reasons the governing body decided it was suitable when it made it a conditional use, because it's at a busy intersection on a state highway. So it has the traffic flows normally associated with such uses. It's on a corner lot at a controlled intersection, so the traffic can get in and out on two streets with the aid of a traffic light. The property is also located at the exit of the Route 206 bypass, so it'd be an excellent location for the gas station and convenience store. The property is separated from a residential use by a street, and the proposed convenience store will be 159 feet from the residence itself. And in addition to the street, it's separated. There's a very hard screen on the residential property in the form of an 8-foot high fence. So even though the property is close to the residential zone, the activity on the site is pretty far from any residential use. So that would be my positive criteria for the D variance. Now, there are a number of areas where we need relief from the bulk variances, and 3 of them are existing conditions in which the applicant is not exacerbating the condition. Everything's staying the same, and that would be for the lot area. Your ordinance requires 2 acres minimum. This lot is what it is. It's a little over 1 acre. We need relief for the lot width and the lot depth. The lot is what it is. It's about 183 feet in both dimensions, and 200 to 250 feet are required. But again, the applicant is not exacerbating any of those conditions. We need relief from, you have an interesting term in your ordinance, it's the other impervious coverage standard, where your requirement is, your maximum is 45%, and we require 57.2%. We need a front yard variance relief for the store setback from Mountain Road. The requirement is 90 feet, and we're proposing 58 feet. But that 58 feet actually brings us more into compliance than the existing convenience store, which is 53 feet from Mountain Road. With regards to the setbacks for the canopy, 90 feet is required from each right-of-way, and we're providing 32.7 feet and 45 feet. But the location of the canopy is a function of where the gas tanks are, and the gas tanks are in an approved location, and the canopy is just going to be going over where the gas tanks and pumps are going to be. And I think all of the C variances can be granted based on the C2 criteria, where boards can approve relief when a proposal advances the purposes of the municipal land use law and the benefits of the proposal substantially outweigh the detriments. And the courts have directed boards in weighing the benefits and the detriments to consider the benefits of the entire proposal and not just the benefits of a specific variance. So in this case, I think the benefits of the proposal are pretty clear, that the public is going to benefit from modern gas station and convenience store operation, that modern gas station is going to have more pumps so people can get in and out quicker. There'll be 7 pumps instead of 4. There'll be more of a selection at the convenience store. I think that the public will benefit from an improved design of the site with better definition of driveways, improved parking and traffic circulation that the applicant is proposing. I think certainly trucks making deliveries will benefit from the improved circulation. I think another benefit is the improved landscaping in the front side and rear of the property. And with that background, I find that the proposal advances various purposes of the municipal land use law, including purpose A, which involves the appropriate use of land, purpose G, providing sufficient space for commercial uses in appropriate locations, and purpose H, which involves promoting the free flow of traffic. With regards to purposes A and G, I think when you read those from front to back, we come away with two main thoughts. One is the appropriate use of land, and one is a benefit to New Jersey citizens. And I hope you agree with me that that the site is still suitable for this use, even though it can't comply with the condition that it be greater than 100 feet from a residential zone. I think clearly the increased convenience of more pumps and more selection and a modern convenience store benefits the citizens of New Jersey, as does, I think, the free flow of traffic that will result from a better definition of driveways and parking areas. In terms of the negative impact to the public good, I really don't find that there to be negative impact for the D or the C variances. In terms of the use, the site is situated as a busy intersection. It has access to two roads. There's a traffic light that facilitates traffic movements in and out of the site. The use is compatible with the animal hospital and the mobile station that flank the subject property. And I see no substantial impact on the residents. That's 159 feet from the convenience store, behind another road and behind an 8-foot fence. I see no detriments to the relief we're asking for the lot size, the lot width, or the lot depth, since these are existing conditions and the applicant isn't exacerbating any of them. I see no substantial detriment associated with the other lot coverage requirement, because I think the additional impervious coverage allows for better parking and better vehicle circulation, and the applicant has designed a compliant stormwater system that can accommodate the stormwater associated with the impervious coverage. I see no detriment associated with the canopy setbacks. They need to be located over the pumps. They're replacing an existing canopy that was basically in the same locations, and they're set back not only a similar distance to the adjacent gas station, but they're open air structures that don't create barriers to sight lines. In terms of the impact on the zone plan with the use, I find that it doesn't have a substantial impact on the zone plan, because even though the site's within 100 feet of a residential zone, it's not very close to a residential property. It's 159 feet away. In terms of the detriment associated with the lot size or the lot width, these are existing conditions, and I see no substantial detriment to the zone plan. I see no substantial detriment associated with the impervious coverage requirement, because the applicant is complying with the stormwater requirements, and the relief allows for better parking and traffic circulation. And I see no substantial detriment to the associated with the setbacks associated with the store and canopies. With regards to the store, we're actually going to be more in compliance with the setback from Mountain View Road. And the canopies, of course, need to be where they are. They are basically in a position where the tanks have been approved. In summary then, I think the site is still particularly suited for the use. I think the public benefits from the use and the proposal, that there's no substantial detriment to the public good or the zone plan. I find that the proposal advances the purposes of the municipal land use law, and the benefits of the proposal substantially outweigh any detriment, and I would urge the board to grant the relief.
Okay, so any questions? Let me start with Mark. Any questions, Mark, for a...
Chairman, no, I have none. Thank you.
Hey, Patrick?
Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, is that there, I may have not picked up on it, but just to clarify that the property does need a variance for lot depth from Mountain View Road. That's 183 feet. The requirement is 250 feet. But this is a pre-existing site. Nothing's being changed with the size of the property. this can easily be reaffirmed.
Okay, no problem. Any questions?
And then one question for Mr. Bernard. Mr. Bernard, there's one other factor in Mr. Maskey's March 4th, 2020 report regarding the buffering requirements. Is the site being compliant with the buffering requirements of the township?
I don't know. I didn't see that it's cited as a variance, so I didn't address it.
It's just the tree mitigation is the only thing that I have on my notes.
I don't know if you heard me, Mr. Gorman. I don't know the answer to the question. As I said, I took a look at the variances that he cited and I addressed those.
Sure thing. But this needs to be made sure that's being adequately addressed at the same time. Or would this be a question that's be better suited for Mr. Ford?
Well, I can't answer the question.
What's the question again, Patrick?
The question has to go with the minimum buffer by the residential district needs to be at least 15 feet, or the buffering requirements being fulfilled as part of the ordinance.
Let's wait. Let's hold back on Mike and bring him back after we finish with this witness. I think.
Sure thing. No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so at this point, any questions from members of the board for this witness? In that case, I'll open. Fred, would you open up for questions from the public, which I see is just Susan at this point?
Correct. Anybody, anyone from the public have a question for this witness? If not, if so, please raise your hand. Seeing none, Mr. Chairman, you can proceed.
Okay. Okay, so at this point, I guess we can call Mike Ford back for that, to answer that one question that was raised.
What page was it on?
Patrick, what page are you referring to, Mr. Maskey's memo?
Page 4, technically it's the first paragraph underneath the chart.
Let's see it.
Yes, the rear. I'm looking for a microphone to pick up.
You got what to do is better than when you have in the courthouse. So.
You have to bring your own tonight.
And you have to bring your own batteries too.
The answer is actually on the site plans. We identified on sheet 3 the 15-foot wide buffer along the residential zone, which is our westerly property line. And that's common with that driveway that's off site. And that's where we provide the additional landscaping. So I haven't received any report from any professional that says we don't comply with that requirement with the landscaping that we have, and we believe we do.
Or just need to have something official on the record. Because it would be a possible variance if you did not. So.
All right, so we're good.
That's fine, and Mr. Euro and I can take care of it during compliance.
Okay, so it sounds like we're finished with the applicant's testimony.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, would you like to summarize or?
I just wanted to thank the board for having this hearing. I know it's an off night. This was obviously scheduled originally for April 1st, so we just greatly appreciate. We know you're all volunteers, and thank you for accommodating this special meeting for the Board of Adjustment.
Thank you. At this point, I'll open it for public comment. Anybody from the public that would like to make a comment on this application, raise your hand, I guess. Fred, would you open the line?
Lines are open. Anybody has a comment, please raise your hand. Seeing none, Chairman, you can proceed.
Okay. At this point, I would like a motion to close public.
Motion to close.
Second.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Hearing none. Discussion from the board members on this application.
I think we did a good job from a board perspective, like identifying all the issues and getting them jotted down and all ready for the motion and all, but I think it'll be an improvement in that area, and I don't see any problems with this application.
Great. Anybody else?
I agree. I second what John said. I think it'll be a nice addition and an upgrade for that area, for that corner. So I think they did a nice presentation.
My perspective, I agree. I've been in town a long time, and I remember when that was, didn't even have a traffic light there. Matter of fact, I remember the summer of 1979 when I was trying to get gas. I think it was backed up East Mountain Avenue at that corner.
What would they have, horse and wagon when you talk about?
No, they didn't have gas. Remember in 1979 when
Yeah, and they had right turn only for the horses.
Right.
Well, you know, it's funny, before I make the motion, I was looking at photo 1 that was in our package. And when I first looked at it, it looks like a 1960 something car. And I went, when did they take this photo? But anyway.
Okay, so would you like to make a motion?
Yes. And of course, Mark, correct me when I'm through, please.
Mr. Stamler, you know that there is no situation in which I've ever had to correct you.
Oh, you're
Go for it, John.
Hey, Mark, for once I'm speechless.
It won't last too long, I'm sure.
With that said, I would like to make a motion to approve this application for the D use variance and the C bulk variances that include relief from the lot area, impervious surface, front yard setback from the canopies, moving the propane cages to the left side of the building. For the signs, the one freestanding sign, the height 15 feet, 52 square feet. Relocation of the tree, relocating of the freestanding sign to Route 206. 2 canopies, 1 wall sign. The lighting as per the board engineer's recommendations, because I know there was some agreement and change. Parking as discussed with the 17 parking spaces, 9 by 18 stalls with 24 aisles. No loading zone driveways on driveways, the 2 driveways on each street. And of course, abide by any board engineer recommendations. Okay, Mark, what did I miss?
Again, I won't repeat what I said. I will only point out that there are a couple of things that I wrote down as the board was discussing things. Of course, your decision as to whether you want to include them in the motion. The things that I note is that with the representation, there would be no more than 3 employees. There would be a reduction of the 2 rear pole lights to 15 feet. And Mr. Stamler, I apologize if I didn't check this off if you said it, compliance with Mr. Euro's recommendations on landscaping.
Yes, that's good. That's why I put a general comment out there, but that's good. So I would like to include everything Mark just mentioned, the 3 employees, the rear poles, the 2 rear pole lights to 15 feet, and of course, the landscaping issues as per the board engineer.
Okay, is there a second?
This is Phil Saluli. I second the motion.
Is there any further discussion on the motion before we vote? Hearing none, Tina, would you call a roll call, please?
Mark, how many do we need on this? 7?
Yeah, so we need 7, and Mr. Sirachi is missing, so Mr. Woolmarket could vote on this one.
Okay, got it.
7 votes, because it's a D variance, you need 5 affirmative votes.
Okay. Mr. Valchek,
Yes.
Miss Erickson,
Yes.
Mr. Stamler,
Yes.
Miss Haynes,
Yes.
Miss Salili,
Yes.
Mr. Wallmacher,
Muted. Mr. Woolmarket, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Yes.
okay, and Chairman Herbert.
Yes. Application's approved. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, good luck.
Thank
Congratulations.
you all for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Best of luck with your business.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairman.
Good
Take
luck.
care. Have a good night, folks.
Okay, before we adjourn, I'll note that there's no meeting in August.
Frank, you're
Yeah,
muted.
Frank.
You're muted.
Frank, unmute yourself.
That's the best thing he said all night.
I just had a notice that jumped up that says host muted me, so.
That's
couldn't take
a
it anymore.
message, Frank. That's a message. You
If I
know.
only had that power.
Give me 10 seconds. The next meeting is September 2nd. And Patrick, would you just tell us what might be on the agenda that evening?
Sure thing. So, as Frank said, we're off on August, so enjoy the month. September 2nd will be our next meeting. As far as we know, we'll still be in this format. If something changes, of course, I'll let you guys know, or Eva will let you know promptly. And then we'll make adjustments if need be, but we'll still be back on the Zoom. If anyone has any questions, that we can definitely help you tomorrow. So coming up September 2nd, we have 2 homeowner applications and 1 use variance application and subdivision for Timco. And then we have a second meeting in September, just remember, September 16th. There's 2 potential applications we could put on now. Both are incomplete at the moment. So we'll have to deem them complete before we can move forward on them.
Okay, my personal opinion is that this Zoom format worked pretty good tonight. A lot better than the telephone. I know some members were pushing to get back into the courtroom, but it turned out since we had no applicant there, it wouldn't make sense. So I think this worked out pretty good tonight.
And Frank, going forward, I think we should have our option on whether to attend, when we do open up the courtroom, leave it out there as attending or not attending,
Yeah, as long as it's legal to do that, I'm sure we want to do it. I think this is going to go on for some time, so this is not going to.
Well, the Township Committee, and Planning Board have had it in person. Hey, the only thing I would say, and I had mentioned this to Patrick, is that I would hope that members, maybe in person, could pick up the packets as they exist right now for
Yep.
the September 2nd meeting.
Yeah.
And then anything that comes in at the last minute can be mailed out to us.
Yeah, sure thing. We can get those packets, start getting those packets together. Probably let's push it in the next week at this point. We can send an email out of who wants packets and who doesn't, so we're not making extra packets if need be, if that's acceptable to the board. Because we're still going to be requesting the applicants to send in paper materials, because there are some members that still want paper. And if you still want paper, still want paper. So we'll have that ready for you.
I'm questioning too, like the homeowners, they may not be as sophisticated as the commercial applicants, so they may have a problem with presenting like we just saw tonight.
Correct, and that could be an issue, and that's why we've worked with the applicants so far to make sure everyone's on board, everyone knows to use Zoom. If you haven't used Zoom, that you can call myself or Fred, and we can walk through what you need to do, how to do a presentation and whatnot. So things go as smoothly as they did tonight, the information in front of them, so we all look at the same time.
I might also mention that Fred's been live streaming this on YouTube, correct, Fred?
Frankie got muted again.
No, I'm here. I'm still there, right? So yeah. So anyway, Fred has been live streaming this on YouTube tonight. So tomorrow, or even tonight, you can watch the meeting if you want to watch it again.
Oh, terrific.
Having said that, do I have a motion to?
Frank, this is Fred Kinsler. I just want to interject one thing. I know you guys were talking about the future meetings and having people in the courtroom. That's a very different structure. I know it seems like it's not, but it is. It's very different for the people in the courtroom than it is if everybody's in a separate location. Zoom works ideally this way when everybody is separated. I am all for getting everybody into the courtroom. So Mr. Stamler, with your comment of having people give the choice, it adds a layer of complexity, if you will, and it runs a little less smooth than it does if everybody is separated with Zoom. Just wanted to add that in so you guys can think about that for the future.
Well, I really don't need Zoom. As long as I have the documentation, I just need a phone. So.
Understood.
Well, if we could do a teleconference and get through applications, we can do anything.
Continue.
I have 40 years with AT&T and IBM. We did it all the time, so it's nothing new for me.
Yeah, but that's been when they had, rotary phones.
I also think, this is Phil speaking, I also think that the applicant did a very good job tonight with the power presentation and the professionalism that they demonstrated. It made it a lot easier for us to come to a conclusion, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, and having everything up in the screen in front of us is even better in the courtroom in some regard because it's right here.
Yeah, and that's why, when we get the homeowner, it might not go as smoothly.
Okay.
And I want it on record that Chicky and I agreed on the signage for once.
Good night, everybody.
I make a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Record show 10:04 p.m. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your summer.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night, all.